Please give your order, young master, Dark 13 said after a brief pause. The head of the Situ clan, Situ Yuntian, Su Zimo said softly. Dark 13 was briefly stunned, then slowly nodded. His figure vanished from the room without a trace. Su Zimo looked around the now quiet room, raising his eyes toward the full moon emerging from behind the clouds. A pity. What I needed was a lapdog of a clan, but you just had too many of your own ideas. In the inner courtyard of the Situ clan estate, Situ Yuntian had just undressed, still lost in thought about the events of the day. He couldn't shake the feeling that things wouldn't end so easily. Su Zimo's attitude had been too elusive to read. Just then, a sudden gust of wind blew through, extinguishing the lanterns in the room. Situ Yuntian's eyes narrowed as a dark figure appeared silently at the window. He hadn't sensed a thing until now. A suffocating, desolate Meridian Realm aura filled the room. The bed curtains swayed gently in the breeze. Who are you? Situ Yuntian took a deep breath. His own true Meridian Realm energy began to rise in response. He could feel the killing intent. His heart was pounding faster than usual. The pressure in the room thickened like a fog. The black-clad figure slightly raised his blade, his form blurring into an afterimage mid-air. Situ Yuntian's pupils contracted. He was shocked and had no time to react before a chill swept over his body. Looking down, he saw that his waist had been cleanly sliced through. His body was cut in two. He tried to raise his head again to face the assassin but couldn't utter a word. Blood gushed from his mouth, and he collapsed lifelessly to the floor. Back at Riverfront Restaurant, Dark 13 reported back to Su Zimo, who nodded slightly. Since he's dead, Su Zimo said calmly, someone needs to take the fall. What do you mean, young master? Dark 13 asked, confused. The three elders of the Situ clan are a good choice, Su Zimo said to himself. But why would they be willing to take the blame? Dark 13 asked. Everyone lives for something: wealth, power, lust, strength. Su Zimo replied with a smile. I understand. Dark 13 nodded, bowed, and vanished again. The night passed quietly, but by morning, a heavy gloom had fallen over the entire Situ estate. Situ Yuntian was dead. The death of this Imperial Gate City powerhouse shocked many. The whole family was in mourning. Situ Yuntian had 3 sons. Counting Situ Yunqing, there were 4 children in total. As Su Zimo, Lin Ruhu, and Little Gue entered the estate, they saw a crowd surrounding a stretcher, wailing in grief. Situ Yuntian's body had been stitched back together and wrapped in white cloth. Father, I swear I will find your killer and bring justice to your soul in the heavens, declared Situ Bo, the eldest son, through gritted teeth. Situ Yunqing knelt to the side, scanning everyone's face for any clue, trying to read their expressions. Then her gaze shifted to the body on the stretcher. Although they hadn't known each other long, Situ Yuntian had shown her nothing but affection since her return. At first, she had been distant, resentful of the years he hadn't been there for her and her mother. But that was the emotional pride of a young girl. Deep down, she had already accepted him as her father. Now, seeing him lie before her, bloodied and lifeless, she couldn't help but feel deeply saddened. Su Zimo stepped through the crowd, knelt beside the body, and sighed with sorrow. Brother Yuntian, though we only met once, as the saying goes, heroes recognize each other, no matter their origins. I had hoped to talk with you more about life, but just one night later, and we're already separated by death. Good men die young. Fate truly toys with us. Senior brother, don't be too upset. The dead can't come back, Little Gue said, trying to console him. I know that. I do. But it's a tragedy all the same, Su Zimo replied, eyes filled with emotion. He turned to Situ Yunqing, who was weeping quietly, and said gently, Don't be too heartbroken. What matters now is finding the killer and avenging your father. Situ Yunqing slowly nodded, then looked at Su Zimo with hope. I know you're a man of great ability. Can you help me? No matter how powerful she might become in the future. Right now Situ Yunqing was just a vulnerable young woman, alone, with no influence or support. It was unrealistic for her to find the killer on her own. "It's not that I don't want to help," Su Zimo replied, feigning hesitation. "But this is your family's internal matter. If I interfere as an outsider, it could lead to rumors." Situ Yunqing fell silent, unsure of what to say. "You should arrange your father's funeral quickly," Su Zimo added. "While I can't step in directly, I'll keep an eye out from the shadows." With those words, he led Lin Ruhu and little Gue away. "Brother Zimo, are you planning to take over the Situ clan?" Lin Ruhu asked curiously on the way back. "You noticed?" Su Zimo chuckled. "Not entirely sure. Just seemed like you were overly concerned about them," Lin Ruhu replied. "You're not wrong," Su Zimo said with a smile. "But it's not time yet. The fire isn't big enough." "What should we do?" little Gue asked. "Go to the Wang and Wan clans. Tell them to unite and put pressure on the Situ clan's businesses," Su Zimo instructed Lin Ruhu. These two families were the only ones in Imperial Gate City capable of competing with the Situ clan. Now that Situ Yuntian was gone, they'd surely be eyeing that power vacuum. "Little Gue, go stir up trouble among Situ Yuntian's 3 sons. Get them to fight each other for the family head position," Su Zimo ordered. "Don't worry, young master. I'll make sure the entire Situ clan plunges into chaos," little Gue said confidently. "And when everything is beyond their control, that's when I'll step in and clean it up," Su Zimo said slowly. "I want Situ Yunqing to join my faction willingly. Brother Zimo, wouldn't it be easier to just storm in and take over? Why make it so complicated?" Lin Ruhu asked, confused. "You're missing the point," Su Zimo smiled. "We may be the baddies, but we're not dumb. I don't just want Situ Yunqing as a person. I want her loyalty, her heart. And the Situ clan is a perfect stepping stone. Also, Dark 13, go to Skysword City and find Vast Sky. Bring him here." Inside the Situ clan council hall, the atmosphere was thick with tension, like dark clouds pressing down. Many faces looked grim. "Grand Elder, in recent days the Wang and Wan clans have been attacking our businesses like rabid dogs," a servant reported. "Several of our pill workshops and weapon pavilions have already been forced to shut down. We used to coexist peacefully, but now that father's gone, they couldn't wait to pounce," said the eldest son, Situ Bo, angrily. "I say we fight back. Let them know we're not pushovers." "We can't even fight now," the Grand Elder replied without looking up. "Our former clan head was at the peak of the true Meridian realm, which kept the other clans in check. Now that he's gone, who do you think we'll fight with? Right now the Situ clan is in disarray. I think we need to appoint a capable leader first," said the second son, Situ, stepping forward. "I agree with second brother," added the third son, Situ Jing, speaking with determination. "I may be the youngest, but I've studied widely and am willing to lead the family through this crisis." "Third brother, you're going too far. As the eldest, I naturally bear the responsibility of leading the family now that father is gone." Situ Bo snapped back. "I believe the position of family head shouldn't be decided by birth order. It's a matter of the family's future. It should go to whoever is most capable." Situ responded steadily. "And I believe I have the ability." The Grand Elder, seated at the head, frowned and slammed the table. "Arguing like this over the clan head's position, what kind of disgrace is this? I'll act as interim patriarch for now. We'll choose a successor later. At least give us a standard to go by, Grand Elder. Why not a competition? Whoever wins becomes the next clan head," the 3 brothers said in unison, exchanging wary glances. While they were fierce competitors, none of them wanted the position to fall into the hands of the Grand Elder. Situ Yunqing sat quietly in the corner, watching the argument unfold. All she felt was a deep, bitter sadness for the state of this family. Everyone here only cared about grabbing power, but they lacked real capability. They were driven by selfish ambition, with no concern for the survival of the family. Situ Yunqing even thought to herself, if the family were handed over to her, She might do a better job than all of them. But unfortunately, she had no power, no influence, and no way to compete. In that moment, the first person she thought of was Su Zimo. She had already looked into his background, a disciple of the true martial sacred ground, with a notably high status. Situ Yunqing was deep in thought. She didn't want to be a decorative figure, destined to live a quiet, unremarkable life. 3 days later, as tensions between the 3 major clans of Imperial Gate City intensified, the people of the city were filled with unease. The atmosphere felt like a storm brewing at the gates, the calm before chaos. Did you hear? Situ Bo, the eldest son of the Situ clan, was assassinated 2 days ago. Someone whispered in a tavern. No kidding. The Situ clans really cursed these days. I heard their second son was attacked last night too. And I heard the third son was almost killed as well, another added. The tavern was full of people, and most conversations revolved around the Situ clan. Few believed the family had a future. Think it was the Wang or Wan clans, trying to destroy the Situ clan and break the 3-way balance. Who knows? Could have been an inside job. Everyone wants that clan head position. Back in his room at Riverfront Restaurant, Su Zimo listened to Little Gui's report, tapping his fingers rhythmically on the windowsill. I've already confirmed it with the Wang and Wan clans. They didn't send assassins, Little Gui said. The hits must have come from within the Situ clan. Good. Now that everything's in place, we'll close the net tomorrow, Su Zimo said. No need to drag this out. Understood. I'll start the preparations. Little Gui nodded and left. Night fell quiet and deep. A few dim stars hung in the sky. The whole of Imperial Gate City slumbered. By dawn, just as the world was beginning to stir, the disciples of the Wang and Wan families had already surrounded the entire Situ estate. Wang Chang and Wan Songqiong, the 2 family heads, walked side by side up to the gate. Do you intend to start a war with our Situ clan? The Grand Elder, Situ Meng, bellowed, his voice echoing through the half-awake city. Situ Meng, stop your useless bluffing. Today, we're here to wipe the Situ clan off the map, Wan Songqiong declared loudly. His peak true meridian realm aura exploded outward. The Grand Elder's expression changed. He was only at the 7th level of the same realm. No match for Wan Songqiong. Clan heads Wang and Wan, we've never had any deep enmity. Why go this far? Situ Meng tried reasoning. Even though our patriarch is gone, the Situ clan is no easy target. I'm willing to offer your families a 50% share of our pill shops and weapon stores in the city. Situ Meng, after all your years in power, you still don't get it? Wang Cheng scoffed. Victory or defeat, that's all that matters. We don't need a reason to destroy you. Only the strong survive. If you insist on war, then I'll fight to the end, Situ Meng said solemnly. He turned to the people behind him and shouted, Bring out the ancestral coffin. Purple-black coffin was carried out. It looked ancient, and its surface was inlaid with blood-red crystals. Think carefully, Situ Meng warned. Once I open this coffin, there's no going back. This becomes a fight to the death. Then open it, Wan Songqiong said coldly. I'd actually like to meet the previous head of the Situ clan. Inside that coffin lay the former patriarch. Many powerful cultivators, when they approach the end of their lifespans and can't break through to a higher realm, will seal themselves away. The red crystals on the coffin were called dust blood stones. They could slow the flow of time. With the dust blood stones, these elders sealed themselves inside, drastically slowing their aging. For example, someone with only 5 years left to live might extend that to 10 or even 20 years by entering a coffin like this. Of course, the price of being sealed inside an ancestral coffin was that one could no longer cultivate. These elders simply waited out their lives in a slow decline, until the effects of the dust blood stones could no longer stave off the passage of time, until death inevitably came. But the benefit was longevity. It gave them more time to safeguard their families. Such ancient elders rarely emerged. Every time they left the protection of the dust bloodstone seal, it cost them a significant amount of lifespan. And since dust bloodstones were incredibly valuable, most small clans couldn't even afford them. Only in a situation nearing annihilation would anyone dare open the ancestral coffin. "Are you truly certain you wish to oppose our Situ clan?" the Grand Elder shouted. "Situ Meng, today the Situ clan will be destroyed," Wan Songqiong declared. "Open the ancestral coffin," the Grand Elder roared. The pitch-black coffin lid slowly creaked open. A seal that had lasted for decades was finally broken, seeing the light of day again. A formless pressure gathered in the sky above. A deep sigh echoed from within the coffin. "So, the Situ clan has really reached this point?" the voice said. The man inside didn't yet know what had happened, but he understood this. The opening of the ancestral coffin could only mean one thing. The Situ clan was on the brink of destruction. There could be no other reason to disturb his rest. "Old Patriarch, it is we who failed you," the Grand Elder said as he knelt before the coffin. "We failed to carry forward your legacy. Instead, we've brought it to this crisis." "Where is Yun Tian?" the voice inside asked again. "The Patriarch is dead. We still don't know who the killer is," the Grand Elder replied honestly. "Life truly is a dream," came another sigh. Then, with a rustle, the coffin lid fell completely open. An elderly man stepped out. He had snow-white hair and the face of a child, wearing a light blue robe embroidered with drifting clouds. Though short and thin, his skin shriveled and clinging to his bones. His eyes shone with brilliance, and a mighty aura surged from him like a rising tide. His cultivation stabilized at the peak of the true Meridian realm, stopping just short of the desolate Meridian realm. People often said walking the martial path was difficult, as hard as reaching the heavens. Each step is like scaling the sky, and it was this very barrier, this tiny membrane between the true Meridian and desolate Meridian realms, that had trapped this man for the rest of his life. In truth, there were many like him. Without the support of powerful factions, many lone cultivators never even broke through to the Meridian forging realm in their entire lives. "Situ Yunlei?" Wan Songqiong looked at the elder in disbelief. "You brat from the Wan clan, and you from the Wang clan. Not bad," Situ Yunlei said with narrowed eyes, surveying the encirclement of his clan estate. "Elder Situ, we respect you," Wang Cheng replied. "But there are things we cannot avoid." "No need for more words," Situ Yunlei laughed heartily. "It's been a long time since these old bones had a proper stretch." His aura exploded outward as he charged directly at Wan Songqiong and Wang Cheng. Though both men were at the peak of the true Meridian realm as well, they dared not underestimate him. Situ Yunlei had made his name long before their time. The two joined forces to fend him off. "Defend the clan! Charge!" the Grand Elder roared, rushing forward. The disciples of all three clans joined the fray. Although the Situ disciples were courageous, two fists cannot fend off four hands. Facing the combined might of the Wan and Wang clans, they quickly fell into retreat. Situ Yunlei initially held the advantage over Wang Cheng and Wan Songqiong, but as the fight dragged on, his stamina began to falter. Age had clearly taken its toll. Half the Situ estate was destroyed in the fighting. Corpses lay strewn about. Seeing the mounting pressure from his two opponents, Situ Yunlei gritted his teeth and went all in. Ignoring their attacks, he chose to trade injury for injury. He struck with his soaring cloud palm. Tens of thousands of white clouds condensed, and a terrifying aura burst forth from his palms. His twin strikes landed directly on Wang Cheng and Wan Songqiong's chests. The clouds exploded in a blinding blast, and all three were blown apart by the impact. The two enemy patriarchs coughed up blood. Situ Yunlei had also taken a heavy hit. A punch and a kick had landed on him. He swallowed the blood in his throat, but his internal organs were twisting in pain. His face turned pale. "Do you still want to fight?" he asked, standing tall. His robe fluttered, white hair like snow, voice calm and cold. "Fight!" Wan Songqiong roared, wiping the blood from his mouth and preparing to attack again, only to be interrupted by a voice. "Everyone, can we please calm down and allow me a few words?" said Su Zimo, stepping forward under everyone's astonished gaze. The Grand Elder immediately turned to him. Young Master Su, we beg you, please uphold justice for us. Wan Songqiong frowned. Young Master Su, are you speaking on behalf of the sacred ground? No, no. Su Zimo shook his head. The sacred ground doesn't interfere with fair competition. I speak only for myself. What do you mean? Situ Yunlei asked after a pause. This is your clan's affair. I am, after all, an outsider. Intervening wouldn't be appropriate, Su Zimo said with a grin. However, if the Situ clan is willing to become my personal subordinate faction, I'd be happy to help you through this crisis. Situ Yunlei was momentarily stunned. Without question, this offer would save the Situ clan. Not only would they escape disaster, but they'd also gain the protection of Su Zimo, a rising powerhouse with deep backing. That support could help them grow and thrive again. But if the Situ clan became Su Zimo's vassal, would it really still be the same Situ clan? In addition, Su Zimo continued, I can help you find out who killed Situ Yuntian. You know who did it? Situ Yunlei's eyes lit up. I'm not the type to speak without proof, Su Zimo replied calmly. I'll give you 3 minutes to decide. No pressure. This is a mutually beneficial deal, nothing more. I accept, Situ Yunlei said without hesitation. He had no other choice. Then can you tell me now who killed Yuntian? He asked. Just as he finished speaking, the 3 elders of the Situ clan suddenly struck. A sword, a fist, and a palm hit Situ Yunlei all at once. He had no time to react. He was gravely injured instantly. You! Situ Yunlei stared in disbelief at the 3 elders of the Situ clan. He hadn't expected that, at the critical moment, it would be his own people who betrayed him. Coughing up blood, he seemed to understand something, and cast a long, deep glance at Su Zimo. Everyone, Su Zimo said with a calm smile, turning to the crowd. I think there's no need for me to say who killed the patriarch of the Situ clan. It was the 3 elders, someone muttered in disbelief. I get it now. The 3 elders must have coveted the position of patriarch. They worked together to have him killed, a disciple exclaimed in shock. Young Master Su, this had nothing to do with you, the Grand Elder said with a twisted grin as he took a step toward Su Zimo. Why did you have to interfere? What can I say? I'm just a chill guy, Su Zimo said, smiling casually. He snapped his fingers. A powerful aura of pressure descended from the sky. Everyone's expression changed. Above them hovered Dark 13, black robes flapping in the wind, bald head shining like the sun, a long sword strapped to his back. He stood motionless, his presence suffocating, eyes fixed on the 3 elders. Under this pressure, the 3 elders realized they couldn't even move. Sweat beaded on their foreheads. Su Zimo turned and walked up to Situ Yunqing. Want to avenge your father? He asked, offering her a long sword. Situ Yunqing froze. She stared at the sword in a daze before slowly taking it. It's time to end this, Su Zimo said gently, patting her on the shoulder. Situ Yunqing nodded heavily, then walked toward the 3 elders with the sword in hand. The elders' expressions twisted with panic. Suddenly, the Grand Elder roared, I've ruled the battlefield all my life. Fine, I'll accept defeat. But I'll never die at the hands of some little girl. All 3 elders released their energy. Waves of spiritual power surged from their bodies, briefly breaking through Dark 13's suppression. They raised their weapons and, without hesitation, each stabbed themselves in the abdomen. With a sickening squelch, the blades pierced their flesh. Blood poured out as they collapsed to the ground. The Situ clan is finished, murmured a bystander. The Situ clan's upper leadership was now completely wiped out. No one was left to carry the burden. Su Zimo turned toward Wan Songqiong and Wang Chang and said, Gentlemen, from this day on, the Situ clan is mine. So, do you want extinction or peaceful coexistence? The 2 looked at Dark 13, who stood in midair without emotion. They swallowed hard and quickly laughed it off. Young Master Su jests, if the Situ clan is yours, of course we'll look after one another. Wan Songqiong said. Yes, yes. We're neighbors, after all. Harmony brings prosperity. Wang Chung added, smiling. Good. Then have your people clean this place up, Su Zimo said casually. He turned to Situ Yunqing. I want to put you in charge of the Situ clan. Are you interested? He asked. Situ Yunqing was stunned. Her big, bright eyes widened in shock. Don't rush your answer, Su Zimo said with a smile. Think about it tonight. Give me your answer tomorrow. He then left with Lin Ruhu and Little Gue. Though the great battle was over, its aftermath rippled through Imperial Gate City like a storm. Back at Riverfront Restaurant, Su Zimo listened to Little Gue's report. Young master, I've spoken to the Wang and Wan families. They helped us stage the whole show. I'll arrange for 2 of their talented youths to enter the true martial sacred ground, Little Gue said. It doesn't matter how talented they are, Su Zimo replied. What matters is that they're from the main bloodline. Once they're inside the sect, they'll be tied to us. I understand, Little Gue nodded. As for the 3 sons of Situ Yuntian, they all died during the battle. Now, the only one qualified to inherit the clan is Situ Yunqing. Keep that part clean, Su Zimo warned. I don't care what people in Imperial Gate City say, but don't let the First Grand Elders faction find out, or they'll run to my father to report it. Got it. The Sacred Grounds local division here is under the Grand Elders faction. They'll be watching closely. Little Gue nodded again. Suddenly, a knock came at the door. Su Zimo paused, then said, Come in. The door opened, and in walked the 3 elders of the Situ clan, completely unharmed. Young Master Su, they greeted with smiles. You're alive. Little Gue was stunned. He had clearly seen them stab themselves in the abdomen with his own eyes. You think stabbing your stomach automatically means death? Su Zimo scoffed. We're cultivators, true Meridian realm at that. We're not that fragile. So it was all an act? Little Gue's eyes widened. He had thought he was in on the whole plan, but clearly he'd only known part of it. Why else did I have the Wang and Wan clans clean up afterward? Su Zimo asked. To avoid leaving traces. Young master, what about the promise you made us? The Grand Elder asked with a flattering smile. Don't worry, Su Zimo replied. I'll get you into the sacred ground and help you break through to the desolate Meridian realm. Head back now. I'll have Dark 13 escort you to the sect tonight. Try not to be seen. Best not to attract attention. Thank you, young master, the 3 said, bowing deeply before leaving. They really killed Situ Yunlei just to break through to the desolate Meridian realm? And now they're taking the blame for Situ Yuntian's death too? Little Gue asked in disbelief. To break through means a surge in power, plus another 100 years of life, Su Zimo replied. And if they enter the sacred ground, they'll have a brighter future. What's a little clan like the Situ clan compared to all that? Little Gue fell silent. His father was an outer court elder of the sacred ground, and he had grown up inside its walls. He had never understood how brutal the outside world could be. But now, this had opened his eyes. The truth was, Su Zimo had planned everything from the start. Whether it was Situ Yunlei, Situ Yuntian, his 3 sons, or the 3 elders, not one of them could remain alive. Because Su Zimo had decided that Situ Yunqing would be the one to manage his growing power. And as long as any of those people remained, they would be a threat to that plan. That was why he reached out to the Wang and Wan clans, aiming to use their influence to take advantage of the chaos and assassinate the 3 sons of Situ Yuntian. That included Situ Yunlei, the Situ clan's last secret weapon. As for how to deal with the 3 senior elders, a faint smile appeared at the corner of Su Zimo's mouth. At that moment, Xiao Gizi had returned to his room. He still couldn't quite figure Su Zimo out. He always had the sense that his senior brother didn't play by the rules. As night gradually fell, Imperial Gate City seemed unusually quiet. Inside Su Zimo's room, he looked at Dark 13 and said, Send those 3 old men off. You mean out of Imperial Gate City? Dark 13 asked, puzzled. No, Su Zimo replied flatly. I mean out of this world. Dark 13 froze for a second, but then nodded and left the room. Outside the city, four figures were dashing forward. The Grand Elder looked at Dark 13 in the lead and said politely, "Sorry to trouble you this late, sir, for escorting us to the sacred ground." Dark 13 simply shook his head indifferently. A cold night breeze swept by, and the moon cast a pale white glow across the land. The wind seemed unusually sharp tonight. From behind them, in the silent city, the faint barking of dogs could still be heard. As their line of sight extended, the image of Imperial Gate City slowly faded into the distance. Eventually, they arrived at a hilltop. Dark 13 stopped. His eyes, devoid of emotion, looked at the three elders like he was staring at corpses. "What's wrong?" the Grand Elder asked with an awkward chuckle. "Nothing. It's time for you to be on your way," Dark 13 said, unsheathing his long sword. "What do you mean by that?" the second elder frowned, taking a cautious step back. Dark 13 didn't respond. With a sharp clang, his blade was drawn. Boom, 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 boom. The four meridian gates of Springwheel, Deepbone, Dawnwind, and Vast Sea burst open. The aura of the desolate meridian realm poured out like a mountain, enveloping the surroundings. "And to think you were disciples of the true martial sacred ground. I knew we couldn't fully trust them," the Grand Elder shouted. The three elders quickly took their positions in a triangle, spiritual energy surging as three of their meridians opened. They each retrieved a formation disc from their spatial rings and poured spiritual energy into them. When the discs were activated, the elders tossed them into the air. A brilliant black light flared. The three discs merged into one, forming a dark cage that enclosed Dark 13. The discs shattered, and countless formation symbols flew out, aligning into formation according to preset rules. "Luckily, we came prepared," the Grand Elder said smugly. The purpose of a formation disc is to store prearranged formation symbols. Normally, formation masters must weave symbols live in battle, which is slow and easy to evade. A long time ago, someone invented the formation disc to solve this, letting users pre-store formations that could be instantly activated in combat by breaking the disc. Though it seemed complex, all of this happened in an instant. Dark 13 frowned at the black prisons surrounding him. His long sword erupted in a flash of blue. The sword energy whipped up dust and carved a long chasm into the earth, surging with unstoppable force. But when it struck the black cage, it was completely absorbed, leaving no trace, no impact at all. "Don't waste your strength," the Grand Elder smirked. "This is a level 4 formation, Dark Prison. We may not be able to kill you, but we can trap you till morning. Since Su Zimo was the one who betrayed us first, don't blame us for what we do next." "That's right. We're going to expose all his crimes," said the second elder through gritted teeth. That bastard had promised to bring them into the true martial sacred ground and help them reach the desolate meridian realm. But now he'd gone back on everything and tried to silence them permanently. Their fury was easy to understand. They had betrayed the entire Situ clan for this, and now they were to be discarded. "You really think everyone else is a fool?" the third elder sneered. "From the moment you approached us, we planned for this. We prepared this level 4 formation in secret, and now it's paid off." "Frogs at the bottom of a well," Dark 13 muttered, giving up on breaking the formation. He sat cross-legged on the ground. "What did you say?" the Grand Elder asked with a frown. "I admit you weren't stupid to prepare a backup, but you'll never understand how vast this world truly is," Dark 13 replied calmly. "Who are you trying to scare?" the third elder scoffed. "You're trapped and powerless, and you're still talking tough?" Dark 13 coldly glanced at them but said nothing more, closing his eyes to rest. "What do we do now?" As the three elders discussed, a sudden voice echoed from above. "Looks like the young master was right. Three little rats really thought they could escape the cage." "Who's there?" the three shouted in unison, looking up in alarm. Above them stood a man in white, holding a sword across his chest, casually yawning as he walked through the sky. "Who are you?" they stammered, nervous. Anyone who could walk through the sky had to be at least at the Meridian Void Realm. Though he hadn't released any aura, the pressure he exuded felt even heavier than Dark 13's. "The show's over," said the man lazily. His name was 10-Mile Vast Sky. Without even unsheathing his sword, he simply traced the air with it. A brilliant flash of sword light bloomed before the elders. In that moment, their lives were frozen. The next day, Imperial Gate City seemed the same as always. Vendors rose at the usual time, opened their stalls at the usual places, and the city bustled as usual. "I'm willing to help you manage the Situ clan," said Situ Yunqing earnestly, having tossed and turned all night, arriving early to see Su Zimo. Su Zimo introduced Vast Sky to her. "From now on, he's your personal bodyguard. The two of you will manage the Situ clan together. If there's danger, he'll protect you." After sending her off, Su Zimo called Vast Sky aside privately. "You'll stay by Situ Yunqing's side from now on," Su Zimo said. Vast Sky nodded but asked, "Are you really going to hand your power over to a little girl?" Su Zimo smiled. If his memory served him correctly, Situ Yunqing was not someone to be underestimated. In his previous life, she had turned the Situ Enterprise into a dominant force across the entire Eastern continent in just a few decades. It had become one of the most influential powers in the region. If she wasn't truly capable, Su Zimo wouldn't have gone to such lengths to bring her under his command. 2 years, Su Zimo said. "If she can spread her influence across all of the Western region, then I'll believe in her." "And if she fails?" Vast Sky asked. "What's the point of keeping someone alive if they're worthless?" Su Zimo replied with a smile. Vast Sky went silent for a moment, thinking to himself, "He's really cold-blooded." With the Imperial Gate City situation resolved, Su Zimo and his companions decided it was time to move on. After all, the sect mission he'd taken on when he left the mountain still wasn't complete. They rode off on horseback under blue skies and white clouds. Verdant hills rolled in the distance as their fierce steeds galloped swiftly. Birds flew overhead, circling above them. The breeze stirred up dead leaves, sending them swirling through the air. The sun blazed high overhead as they rode, when suddenly, an explosion rang out from the sky. A powerful presence descended from above, pressing down on them. 2 figures walked through the air above them. One was an elderly man in a gray robe, holding a heavy 5-foot sword. The invisible pressure radiating from him rippled through the air, causing the sky to thunder and crack. The other was a middle-aged man wreathed in blazing fire. His flames were scorching and dazzling, as if they were about to consume the very space around him. The gray-robed elder's expression was stern. When he spoke, his voice boomed like thunder, shaking the skies. "Rinpingsheng, hand over the Grand Emperor Tunri's legacy, and I'll spare your life." The man wrapped in flames gave a disdainful laugh. He looked pale, clearly injured, and sneered. "You Bewley, someone like you, a scheming coward, dares call yourself a sect master? What a joke!" Lying back casually on his horse, Su Zimo watched the battle unfold with interest. Next to him, little Gue looked nervous. Seeing Su Zimo so calm, he asked, "Senior brother, do you know them? What's there to be afraid of?" "No one dares touch you while you're with me," Su Zimo replied with a chuckle. "That gray-robed old man is Yu Bewley, leader of the Heavenly Sword Sect," Lin Ruhua explained from the side. "As for the man in white, I don't know." "Rinpingsheng," Su Zimo said with a smile. "The man who walks calmly through wind and rain. A descendant of the Grand Emperor Tunri." "Grand Emperor Tunri?" Shao Gizi exclaimed. That was a legendary emperor from the Imperial era, a name known far and wide. Yu Bewley is at the Paragon Meridian Realm, while Rinpingsheng is only at the Desolate Meridian Realm. "He doesn't look like he can hold on much longer," Shao Gizi observed. "Never underestimate the means left behind by an emperor," Su Zimo said, waving his hand. "Let's go. This has nothing to do with us." In the sky above, Yu Bewley gripped his great sword tightly. Endless sword force gathered on its blade, condensing and then erupting. Cracks formed in the fabric of space. This sword strike brimmed with murderous intent. Violent winds howled around him as he raised the massive sword above his head, ready to tear the sky in two. "You Bewley, are you really willing to fight to the death?" Ren Pingsheng asked grimly. "Hand over the Grand Emperor's artifact, and I'll spare your life." Yu Bewley roared. Power continued building in his blade. His face distorted under the pressure. This was clearly the attack meant to end it all. "You forced my hand?" Ren Pingsheng coughed a few times and slowly drew a flute from his waist. In the distance, Su Zimo's eyes narrowed at the sight of the flute. Then he smiled. "Looks like the real show is about to start." "Is that flute powerful?" Lin Ruhu asked curiously. "That flute is tied to a love story from the Grand Emperor Tun Ri's youth," Su Zimo said with a grin. "Want to hear it?" Little Gue looked puzzled. The Grand Emperor Tun Ri lived several eras ago. How could his senior brother know about his love life? Still, gossip about an emperor's romantic past? That was too tempting to pass up. "It said this story took place when the Grand Emperor Tun Ri was still young," Su Zimo said with a hint of amusement. "Back then, he had a childhood sweetheart. They were engaged from a young age and deeply in love. But one day, the girl fell seriously ill. Before she died, she gave him her most beloved flute as a keepsake, to remember their short but precious time together. After that, every time he missed her, he would play the flute alone. He kept that habit even after ascending to become a Grand Emperor. The flute itself was made of ordinary materials, but inside, it was engraved with imperial runes. As Su Zimo recounted the tale, Ren Pingsheng cut his finger and let a drop of blood fall into the flute. Then, slowly, he brought it to his lips. The moment his blood touched the flute, his face grew even paler. The clear, flowing sound of the flute began to play. It was slow and gentle, like a peaceful stream under a small bridge. Yet as that simple melody echoed, the entire world seemed to freeze. All sound vanished. Whether it was the raging rivers in the distance or the gentle wind on the horizon, everything stilled. Even Yu Bewley's sword strike, poised to split the sky, suddenly froze in place. The flute continued to play. Yu Bewley's face twisted in shock. A black sun began to form at the edge of the sky, rising with terrifying force. The space around it crumbled. Natural laws warped. Power beyond imagination gathered in the heavens. Is this the power of an emperor? Lin Ruhua and Shao Gizi stared in awe. If just a used flute with imperial runes can do this, what must the Grand Emperor himself have been like? Ren Pingsheng, you got lucky this time, Yu Bewley roared, unwilling to give up. But that artifact hasn't accepted you yet. How many more times can you use your blood to activate it? With that, he turned and fled like a madman. The black sun above was nearly complete, like a vortex about to consume all. Yu Bewley felt as if invisible hands had gripped his heart, on the verge of crushing it. He didn't dare stay. No one defies the majesty of a Grand Emperor. As Yu Bewley fled frantically, Ren Pingsheng finally lowered the flute. The black sun slowly faded away. His body swayed and nearly collapsed from the effort. He gently descended, casting a glance at Su Zimo and the others. "Hand over all your healing pills," Ren Pingsheng said, his desolate meridian aura pressing heavily on the group as he eyed them coldly. "A descendant of Grand Emperor Tun Ri, and this is how you carry yourself?" Su Zimo replied calmly, smiling. "A noble bloodline reduced to this. Pretty pathetic, don't you think?" Ren Pingsheng snorted. Spirit force surged around him, forming a massive energy hand that reached towards Su Zimo and the others. "You touch us and you're finished. We're disciples of the true martial sacred ground," Little Gue shouted. "My father is an inner court elder." Ren Pingsheng frowned. If they were just ordinary sect disciples, he wouldn't care. Killing one or two wouldn't matter. The true martial sacred ground had thousands of disciples, and no one could protect all of them. But if this kid really was the son of an inner court elder, that was a different story. If he killed the elder's son, the sect might ignore it, but the father certainly wouldn't. Inner court elders were all Paragon Meridian realm experts. Some with extraordinary talent even reached the Imperial Meridian realm. Renping Sheng couldn't afford to cross someone like that. Though he carried the prestigious title of being Grand Emperor Tunri's descendant, the painful truth was, he hadn't inherited any of his ancestors' power. He was all name, no substance. Renping Sheng gave them a long look, then turned to leave. "Hey, how about we make a deal?" Su Zimo called out. "I'm not interested in your true martial sacred ground," Renping Sheng replied indifferently. No, I'm talking about something else. What if I said I could help you obtain your ancestors' legacy?" Su Zimo said with a grin. Renping Sheng froze. His heart suddenly pounded as he stared intently at Su Zimo. "What do you know?" he asked, breath quickening. "Here's the deal," Su Zimo said directly. "I heal your injuries. I help you get your inheritance. In return, you serve me. Fight for me. Sound good?" "Absolutely not." Renping Sheng's face changed. Serving someone meant giving up his freedom, and that was not his style. "Think it through," Su Zimo said patiently. "In your current state, with all those people coveting the Grand Emperor Tunri's legacy, you'll never have peace. You'll spend the rest of your life running. But join me. Become one of my war generals, and I'll show you what lies beyond the sky." "What lies beyond the sky?" Renping Sheng murmured, stunned by the words. Su Zimo took a healing pill from his spatial ring and tossed it over. "If you're in, take this to recover. Then make a heavenly oath." Renping Sheng stood in silence for a long moment, his eyes gradually lighting up. Then he said, "I'll join your force, but you have to help me kill that hypocrite Yu Bewley." "I don't take revenge on behalf of others," Su Zimo said with a shake of his head. "Isn't it more satisfying to kill your enemies with your own hands?" "But there's a huge gap between me and him," Renping Sheng replied thoughtfully. "He's in the Paragon Meridian realm. Who knows how long it'll take me to catch up? I can't wait that long." "There's no need to doubt yourself," Su Zimo said. "Once you inherit your ancestors' legacy, your path to greatness will begin." In his past life, Renping Sheng had become a legendary lone warrior across the entire primordial heartlands, a true force to be reckoned with. He just hadn't awakened his potential yet. "Let's hope you're not lying to me," Renping Sheng said as he raised his head and made his vow to the heavens. "Heavenly Tao is my witness. Today I, Renping Sheng, swear this oath. If Su Zimo helps me obtain the Grand Emperor Tunri's legacy, I will serve him loyally for life. I will follow him in battle to the ends of the sky, until death claims me." As soon as the words left his mouth, the sky changed, winds rose, clouds surged, covering the burning sun. Then everything returned to normal. This wasn't an ordinary oath. It was carved onto the heavenly Tao using his true life essence. If broken, divine retribution would follow. And not just anyone could make such an oath. You had to have opened the fourth meridian gate and successfully awakened your fate. Vast Sky had sworn a similar oath before. "Now will you tell me where my ancestors' legacy is?" Renping Sheng asked. "Return to your clan's ancestral shrine," Su Zimo said. "There's a statue of the Grand Emperor Tunri there. Move the statue, and beneath it, you'll find a hidden stone block. The key is your flute. Insert the flute to unlock the hidden mechanism, and all will be revealed." "The legacy is in our ancestral shrine?" Renping Sheng was stunned. No one in the Ren family had ever known. If they had found it earlier, the Ren family might never have declined the way it did. Su Zimo didn't explain further. "Go check it out. If I wasn't lying, and you gain the legacy, come find me at the true martial sacred ground." Renping Sheng nodded, bowed deeply, and then rose into the air and left. Watching him fly away, Su Zimo smiled faintly. Renping Sheng, the man who walks calmly through wind and rain, in Su Zimo's past life, this name had shaken the entire primordial heartlands. In truth, Su Zimo was just pushing things along. Even without his help, Renping Sheng would eventually stumble upon the legacy by chance. And when he did, he'd embark on that lonely yet glorious journey to fame. "Senior brother, how do you know all this?" Little Gue asked, still baffled. "Read more, do more, ask less," Suzimo replied without looking back. Little Gue nodded quickly. He knew he had overstepped. Some things were better left unasked. 10-Mile Town. This was the location of Suzimo's current mission. It lay at the eastern edge of the western region, under the jurisdiction of Three Moon City, and within the territory of the Greenwood Empire. Crimson maple trees swayed gently at the town gates. Their dark red leaves blanketed the ground, drifting into the distance like silent vows and dreams. By afternoon, the group arrived in 10-Mile Town. Their horses, exhausted from a full day's run, neighed and panted heavily. A cold wind began to blow, birds flew low across the gray skies, and before anyone noticed, rain began to fall. It started as sparse drops but soon turned into a fine mist as night fell. "Senior brother, let's visit Master whose manor first," Little Gue suggested. Master who was the one who had posted the mission. Suzimo nodded. They had just taken a few steps when another group entered the town from the gates ahead. This new group had 3 members, 2 men and 1 woman, all wearing light gold robes and riding blazing flame steeds. "They're disciples of the Divine Sun's sacred ground," Little Gue said, narrowing his eyes. The Divine Sun's sacred ground was also an imperial lineage from the western region. It had been founded by Grand Emperor Shenri. However, compared to the true martial sacred ground, which had produced 4 emperors in its history, the Divine Sun's sacred ground had only produced 1. Its heritage and power were far inferior. The 3 disciples from the Divine Sun's sacred ground also noticed Suzimo's group. The leading male disciple, with a sword at his waist, snorted coldly and arrogantly rode past without acknowledging them. The relationship between the Divine Sun's sacred ground and the true martial sacred ground was strained, mostly because the true martial sacred ground was simply too dominant. It was the unquestioned ruler of the western region. Even other imperial lineages like the Divine Sun's sacred ground had to bow before it. "What's he so smug about?" Little Gue muttered in annoyance. "If they annoy you, just beat them up. Why hold back?" Suzimo said with a smile. "I've got your back. What are you afraid of? Senior brother, I've been waiting for you to say that." Little Gue grinned. Seeing the 3 figures ahead, he gathered spiritual energy in his palm. Then, with a sweep of his right hand, he sent a blade-shaped burst of spirit force slashing toward the lead disciple. It struck the leg of the disciple's flame steed, which let out a painful whinny and collapsed. The disciple was caught off guard and thrown to the ground in a disheveled heap. "What do you think you're doing?" the disciple shouted as he stood and drew the sword at his waist, glaring at Suzimo's group. "I don't like your face. Got a problem with that?" Little Gue sneered, pulling out his iron staff and charging without another word. As the 2 began exchanging blows, Suzimo rode his flame steed straight toward the female disciple of the Divine Sun's sacred ground. Another male disciple, seeing this, quickly drew his curved blade and stepped in front of the woman, frowning at Suzimo. "Kid, don't mess with Brother Zimo while he's trying to flirt," Lin Ruhua shouted, launching himself into the air from his saddle and striking toward the blade-wielding disciple with both fists. The male disciple met him with his blade, and the 2 began to clash fiercely. The female disciple watched Suzimo warily, her right hand resting on the hilt of her sword. "What's your name, miss?" Suzimo asked with a playful smile. "What do you want?" she asked cautiously, steering her horse a couple of steps back. Suzimo whistled flirtatiously and clicked his tongue. "Nice figure. None of your business," she snapped, covering her chest with her arms, clearly disgusted. "What brings you to 10-Mile Town?" Suzimo asked. "Why should I tell you?" she countered. Suzimo didn't press. She suddenly saw a flash of white light, so fast it was barely visible. Sword-drawing technique. A white arc of sword energy struck the wrist of the male disciple who was dueling Little Gue. A sharp pain shot through the man's arm, and his sword dropped from his hand. Little Gue's iron staff stopped just 3 inches from the man's forehead. "If you don't talk," Suzimo said calmly, "he might just die. Are you trying to start a war with the Divine Sun's sacred ground?" The female disciple snapped, her face darkening. "Then let's go to war." Su Zimo replied with a chuckle. You think the true martial sacred ground would be afraid of you? But the real question is, would your divine son's sacred ground really start a war over a few nobodies like you? The woman's expression shifted. Her chest rose and fell rapidly as she struggled with the implications. After a moment of silence, she said, Fine, I'll tell you, but let my senior brother go first. You're in no position to bargain, Su Zimo said, shaking his head. Little Gue retracted his staff, then kicked the male disciple squarely in the chest. The man cried out in pain and fell to the ground, face twisted with rage and fear as he glared at Su Zimo. Don't hurt him, I'll talk, the female disciple cried. There are rumors of ghosts at the home of Master Hu, the wealthiest man in 10 Mile Town. We received a mission to come exorcise them. Su Zimo paused, so they were here for the same mission. He rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Interesting. Looks like Master Hu didn't just post the mission with the true martial sacred ground. He must have sent requests to other sects too. In his previous life, Su Zimo had taken this mission and never ran into anyone from the Divine Sun sacred ground. Apparently he'd arrived too late that time. These disciples must have died before he got there. Su Zimo smiled, waved to Lin Ruhua and the others and said, Let's go. As Su Zimo's group rode away, the male disciple from the Divine Sun sacred ground stood silent, expression shifting as he watched them disappear. No one knew what he was thinking. Master Hu was head of the largest family in 10 Mile Town and reportedly its wealthiest resident. Su Zimo and his group arrived at the Hu residence. After a servant informed the household, a middle-aged man dressed in a gaudy mix of blue, green, and yellow robes came out. He wore a light green sun hat. His complexion was sallow, and his eyes were swollen, probably from many sleepless nights. He looked utterly exhausted. You've finally come, honored heroes, he said, rushing forward with excitement. I've been living in fear every day. I thought I'd never see help arrive. He led the group into the main hall. Su Zimo smiled slightly and said, You're too kind, Master Hu. I've prepared food for you travelers, Master Hu said with a weary smile. Let's eat and talk. Su Zimo nodded. Just as they were about to eat, a servant came in and announced that the Divine Sun sacred ground disciples had arrived as well. Perfect, Master Hu said. Fate has brought you all here at once. Now I feel much more at ease. He had them brought in. The Divine Sun sacred ground disciples' expressions darkened the moment they saw Su Zimo and his group. What are you doing here? Asked the sword-carrying male disciple. You all know each other? Master Hu asked, trying to smooth things over. He then led everyone to a side hall, where they sat down and introduced themselves. From the Divine Sun's sacred ground, the sword-wielding disciple was named Wang Tao, the one with the curved blade was Xing Lin, and the female disciple was Xiao Yu. Tell us what's going on. Your mission brief wasn't very detailed, Xing Lin asked calmly, turning to Master Hu. This all started about 2 weeks ago, Master Hu sighed, beginning his story. One night, I was asleep when I suddenly heard a woman singing. At first, I didn't think much of it until the next morning, when the captain of the guards was found dead. His corpse was twisted in a grotesque expression of terror, as if he'd died of fright. Since that incident, every night we hear a woman singing somewhere in the estate. But no matter how many people I send out to look, we can never find the source of the voice. Every morning, someone is dead. Even when I gathered everyone together to stay awake all night, people still vanished and died by dawn. So far, nearly 20 people from the Hu estate have died. Many servants quit and left. People say I've been cursed. There are no such things as ghosts, clearly the work of some petty criminal. Wang Tao from the Divine Sun's sacred ground said dismissively, Don't worry, Master Hu. Tonight, I'll personally patrol the estate and catch the killer. Good, thank you all. Please don't hesitate to ask if you need anything, Master Hu said gratefully. Tonight, gather every remaining person in the estate. No one leaves, Wang Tao ordered. I want to see who dares to play tricks here. No problem. I'll leave it to you, Master Hu nodded. As Wang Tao boasted with exaggerated confidence, Su Zimo said nothing. He simply smiled faintly. To Su Zimo, completing this sect mission meant nothing. He only came to this town to retrieve a particular item. In fact, he hoped everyone else would die. The more souls that item devoured, the stronger it became, and the more useful it would be to him in the future. As the group continued eating and chatting, a little girl suddenly ran into the room. "Daddy, do we have guests?" she asked sweetly. She had 2 little pigtails and looked only 4 or 5 years old. "Inger, come to Daddy." Master Hu beamed, clearly very fond of his daughter. He scooped her into his arms and introduced her. "This is my daughter, Hu Yingying. She was seriously ill not long ago. Thankfully, the curse hasn't targeted her." After dinner, the sky grew darker, and the light rain turned into a heavier drizzle. Raindrops dripped steadily from the eaves, and the entire Hu estate was soon shrouded in a misty fog. Master Hu then gathered all the remaining servants into a side hall. In truth, there weren't many left. With so many dead or fled, this once grand estate now held fewer than 20 people. "We'll patrol the east wing. You patrol the west. How's that?" Wang Tao asked Su Zimo's group. "You still asking for a beating? Who are you to give orders?" Little Gue snapped. Then he turned to Su Zimo, waiting for instructions. "You guys patrol. I'll stay in the main hall to guard Master Hu and the others," Su Zimo said lazily, stretching, clearly disinterested. "Fine." Wang Tao grumbled and left with the other Divine Sun, Sacred Ground disciples. "Senior brother, we're heading to patrol the west wing," Little Gue said. Su Zimo glanced up. The rain was getting heavier, and the night sky felt unusually eerie. "What's there to patrol? Go rest," Su Zimo replied casually and walked off toward the side hall. He left behind a confused Little Gue and Lin Ruhu, scratching their heads. Meanwhile, Ren Pingsheng had been rushing back home. After taking the healing pill Su Zimo gave him, most of his injuries had recovered. His mind was completely occupied with thoughts of Grand Emperor Tunri's inheritance. By nightfall, he arrived at his clan's ancestral shrine. Since the Ren family's decline, few people ever visited the shrine anymore. He pushed open the old wooden doors, now worn and warped with age. Inside, the lighting was dim, and the air felt stuffy and stale. Directly ahead stood a statue of the Grand Emperor, coated in dust and spiderwebs. The statue had been carved from old portraits of the Grand Emperor. But no matter how skilled the craftsman, none could fully replicate his likeness. So the Ren family had settled on carving only a statue of his back. Ren Pingsheng walked up, knelt, and bowed 3 times before moving the statue aside. He searched the altar and found a loose brick. Sliding it aside revealed a hidden groove, a perfect fit for his flute. His breathing quickened. Mind blank, hands trembling, he inserted the flute into the groove. Instantly, the shrine began to shake. Spirit force surged above the shrine as a deep vortex formed in the air. As the vortex opened, space itself cracked and collapsed. Compressed air exploded outward as streaking energy bolts shot in all directions. Ren Pingsheng's eyes filled with fire as he whispered, "You Bewley, just wait. When I return, I will crush your sect." Heart racing, he stepped into the vortex. It closed behind him, and the surroundings returned to silence, as if nothing had happened. At that same moment, on graceful willow peak of the true martial sacred ground, a young woman named Bailey Xiao sat quietly in the heart of a white lotus flower. The lotus was a relic of Grand Empress Hong Tian's legacy. Bailey Zhao's expression was serene as a strand of hair swayed in the breeze. Spiritual energy gathered atop the lotus, constantly nourishing her body. White mist drifted around her like clouds. She looked like a goddess descended from the heavens. Clad in white, skin like snow, perfect features, just looking at her felt like sacrilege. It had been a while since she'd appeared publicly, and her ethereal aura only seemed to grow stronger. Suddenly, there was a loud bang. Bailey Zhao's deep bone meridian gate burst open. She had broken through to the meridian forging realm, and endless spiritual energy surged through her body. She rose gently from the lotus, taking graceful steps. Two handmaidens, who had been waiting nearby, stepped forward. They were the same twin sisters, Xue Qianxue and Xue Mengmeng, whom Su Zimo had met during the sect's freshman trials. Sister Xiao, you've broken through to the Meridian Forging realm, Xue Mengmeng said with wide, sparkling eyes. Just broke through. You two should keep working hard too, Bailey Xiao replied with a soft smile. Don't worry, I've already reached the 7th stage of the Spirit Meridian realm. By the time the next Outer Court Disciple tournament comes around, I'll definitely rank high, Xue Mengmeng said confidently. Bailey Xiao nodded with a smile, then walked alone to the summit of graceful Willow Peak. She gazed at the endless horizon in the distance. That direction led to Sunshine Village. She murmured softly, Chuyang, what are you doing now? Are you thinking of me too? Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of light footsteps. She quickly turned around and called out, Aunt. Xiao Yuexian nodded with approval and smiled. You've broken through to the Meridian Forging realm? Bailey Xiao nodded. Yes, I just broke through. I discussed it with the Vice Lord, Xiao Yuexian said with a trace of regret. And it looks like your engagement to Su Zimo might not go through. What happened? Bailey Xiao asked, puzzled. She was very confident in her looks. Of course, she had absolutely no romantic interest in Su Zimo. She'd only agreed to the arrangement to secretly leverage the Vice Lord's influence. If she could become the saintess of the true martial sacred ground, she would gain access to massive cultivation resources. Once she achieved her goals, this meaningless engagement would no longer matter. Her heart had always belonged to Chuyang. The true martial sacred ground and Su Zimo were nothing more than stepping stones in her journey. Right now, what she needed was power that she could borrow from her aunt and from the sect. Becoming Su Zimo's fiancé would give her access to all that. Su Zimo seems to have some reservations, Xiao Yuexian said. But I don't think it's a big issue. I believe in you. Once he returns, get closer to him. Boys his age are easily swayed. I understand. Bailey Xiao nodded seriously. Sunlight poured down like a golden veil, casting a warm glow over the world. Chuyang, now holding Master Mo's half-jade pendant, left Sunshine Village and began his journey. After arriving in Profound Origin City, he rested overnight. The next morning, he headed to the military barracks Master Mo had mentioned. Most cities had military camps. Their job was to defend the city, though they operated independently and weren't under the local governor's control. The barracks were strict and orderly. Soldiers in uniform black armor patrolled the grounds. You want to join the military, kid? Two brawny men at the registration desk asked, amused. Do you know someone named Du Tianyin? Chuyang asked. What do you want with General Du? One of the soldiers asked more seriously. Master Mo Tianqi told me to find him, Chuyang said, showing the half-jade pendant Mo had given him. Wait right here. The soldier's expression changed, and he rushed inside. Soon, a hearty laugh echoed from within the barracks. A tall, imposing man with long black hair and overwhelming presence strode out. Your old Mo's nephew? He asked. He wore intricately designed black armor with a battle sword at his waist. His neck was scarred, a clear sign of someone who had fought many battles. Yes, Master Mo sent me here to find you, Chuyang said, handing over the pendant. If you're old Mo's nephew, there's no need to be so formal. Call me Uncle Du, Du Tianyin said, patting Chuyang on the shoulder. Hello, Uncle Du. Chuyang greeted respectfully. If Mo sent you to me, he must want you to train in the military, Du said. Anyone he recommends, I trust. If you're ready, report in today. Chuyang nodded and followed Du Tianyin into the barracks. Inside were rows of tents, neatly arranged in dark green. Shirtless warriors trained by jumping with huge stones, while soldiers practiced swordplay, clashing blades with explosive force. Sword energy slashed 4 meters out. Saber strikes boomed as they shattered the air. Chuyang registered his details and was handed a military token. From today, you are a member of the Blood Wolf Guard. The issuing soldier declared firmly, "While you're with us, you must follow every rule to the letter. If the day comes when you wish to leave, return this token. This isn't just proof of your membership. It represents your honor and legacy for life." Chuyang nodded seriously and accepted the token with both hands. He was then given a uniform and 2 profound-grade meridian techniques. The uniform was the Blood Wolf Guard's standard issue, a deep black robe with a blood-red hood. Putting it on, Chuyang felt quite imposing. The 2 profound-grade techniques were Blood Blade Slash and Blood Origin Palm. Every new recruit to the Blood Wolf Guard learned these 2 techniques. To access more powerful techniques, they would need to complete missions and earn merit points. Military rank within the Blood Wolf Guard was clearly defined. New recruits began as regular soldiers. Above them were 10 squad leaders. Then came 100 squad leaders, 1,000 squad leaders, and finally generals. Du Tianyin, being extremely busy, handed Chuyang over to a 1,000 squad leader, who would oversee his training and assignments. Rather than keeping Chuyang under his direct protection, which would have been safer, Du likely agreed with Mo Tianqi that Chuyang needed to grow through real combat. That 1,000 squad leader then assigned Chuyang to a squad under a 10 squad leader. Each small squad had 10 members, including the leader. Chuyang's new squad had an open spot due to a recent casualty, so he was placed there. He introduced himself to the group. Most of the others were older men. After introductions, the younger man approached him and said with interest, "I'm Tong Guan. Want to be my little brother?" "No thanks," Chuyang replied, shaking his head. He was more focused on mastering the 2 new techniques. "Think carefully. If you agree, I'll look out for you on missions. Otherwise, rookies like you are the ones who die first," Tong Guan said, clearly threatening him. "Get lost," Chuyang said coldly, giving him a look. You'd better watch yourself." Tong Guan's face darkened. He gave Chuyang a hateful glare before storming off. Chuyang didn't take it to heart. He sat down and began studying Blood Origin Palm. "Kid, you ever killed someone before?" asked an older man from the squad, cleaning his blade beside him. "I've killed before," Chuyang said hesitantly. On the road from Sunshine Village to Profound Origin City, he had encountered a few ignorant thieves. That had been his first time taking a life. Strangely, he hadn't felt nauseated or disgusted. Instead, he had felt a faint curiosity. The old man continued polishing the saber in his hands, blew lightly on the edge of the blade, and smiled. "In our military camp, killing is a regular thing. You'll get used to it soon enough. As for that young guy earlier, he's from the Tong clan, a major clan in Profound Origin City. He's a bit arrogant. Don't take it to heart." "Why would someone from the Tong clan be here?" Chuyang asked, curious. Logically, clans like the Tong clan shouldn't be lacking in cultivation resources. Their power was likely on par with the military camp itself. Why send their young heirs here? "Our camp may not provide you with an abundance of cultivation resources, nor grant you high status or political clout," the old man said with a grin. "But if you come here, you'll definitely learn 2 things." "What things?" Chuyang asked. "Bloodlust and courage," the old man said, his tone shifting. In that moment, an intense aura burst from his body, like a sea of blood surging around him, wrapped in a chilling killing intent. Chuyang was stunned. He felt like a lone boat adrift in an endless, raging sea, tiny and helpless. That's why many clan heirs come here, not for cultivation, but to temper themselves. The old man laughed heartily, stood up, sheathed his saber, and walked off into the wind. "Kid, you've got a long road ahead." Inside the ring, Elder Mo chuckled. "This place suits you well." "I'll do my best." Chuyang nodded and stood up too. Over the following days, Chuyang gradually adapted to the life here. The young man named Tong Guan turned out to be the squad's favorite. Kind-hearted, albeit a little arrogant. The old man who had chatted with Chuyang was named Wu Sanlang. Rumor had it that he fought like a madman in battle, which is why he had earned that nickname. Their 10-man squad was led by a Decurion named Feng Bing, a burly man built like a bear who wielded a pair of massive iron hammers and possessed innate brute strength. One morning, after breakfast, Feng Bing gathered the squad. "We have a mission," he said. "It concerns the remnants of the 13 Cloud Chain bandits. They were spotted recently near Blackwater Mountain. This time, eliminating them will earn each of you 1,000 merit points." "Whoa, that's a generous reward," someone nearby said with a grin. "That's generous?" Feng Bing scoffed. "If you can retrieve the Azure Cloud Battle Physique, I'll give you 100,000 merit points. If I had the Azure Cloud Battle Physique, I wouldn't trade it even for 100 million points." The man laughed back. "All right, get ready, we leave at noon," Feng Bing ordered. The squad dispersed. Only Chu Yang remained confused. 13 Cloud Chain bandits? Azure Cloud Battle Physique? What were they talking about? He found Wu Sanlang to ask. The two had grown close, and Chu Yang often turned to him with questions. "You've heard of the 100 Battle Physiques legend, right?" Wu Sanlang asked with a smile. Chu Yang nodded. "The Azure Cloud Battle Physique ranks 72nd among them," Wu explained. "Long ago, beneath Blackwater Mountain, there was a village called Cloud Chain Village. 13 sworn brothers of different surnames lived there. One day, they supposedly dug up the Azure Cloud Physique Pearl from beneath a tree at the village entrance. The eldest brother fused with the Azure Cloud Battle Physique. As their strength grew, their ambitions turned dark. They became bandits in Blackwater Mountain, robbing travelers. And then, Chu Yang asked, intrigued. Eventually, someone posted a mission to exterminate the 13 bandits on the True Martial Sacred Grounds bounty board. Wu Sanlang continued. An elite disciple took on the mission and personally wiped them out. The eldest was killed on the spot. The other 11 were also slain. Only the youngest, the 13th brother, escaped under the cover of his comrades. "So the one we're hunting now is that 13th brother?" Chu Yang asked. "Most likely. We don't know how accurate the intel is." Wu Sanlang shrugged. "What happened to the Azure Cloud Battle Physique in the end?" "Why?" "Interested." Wu Sanlang gave Chu Yang a look and continued. "Some say the elite disciple from True Martial Sacred Ground took it. Others say the 13th brother escaped with the Physique Pearl. There are all kinds of rumors. Some even claim the Azure Cloud Battle Physique never existed. It was just an excuse to take down the 13 bandits." "No, I was just curious," Chu Yang said with a smile. By noon, under the blazing sun, the 10-man Blood Wolf Guard squad set out toward Blackwater Mountain. Blackwater Mountain lay to the east of Profound Origin City, named after the Blackwater River, famed as the longest river in the western region. Its source lay in the 100,000 mountains to the west, and its eastern flow was said to reach beyond the western region's borders into the heart of the eastern continent. Chu Yang had the lowest cultivation level in the Team 7th stage of the Spirit Meridian realm. The others were mostly in the Meridian Forging realm, and Decurion Feng Bing was even at the peak of the Meridian Forging realm. When they reached the foot of the mountain, they saw it wasn't very tall, but dense forests covered it entirely. As they started climbing, they could already hear the roaring current of the Blackwater River. "Someone's been here," Wu Sanlang said as he pointed to a patch of blood in a roadside bush. He dipped his fingers in the blood, sniffed it, and said, "This is blood from a level 1 demon beast, Swiftcloud Leopard." "Let's move further in," Feng Bing said after a moment of thought. They pressed on. Soon, signs of battle appeared. Several large trees had been snapped. The ground was full of pits and craters, and bloodstains were scattered all over. "This blood's still fresh. The fight didn't end long ago," Wu Sanlang noted. "There's someone over there," Tong Guan suddenly shouted. His voice was infused with spirit force, and arcs of pale blue lightning danced around his feet. He activated Lightning Step, bounding forward with the speed and sound of a thunderclap, and lunged into a bush, dragging out a man in a red robe. The man was only at the peak of the Spirit Meridian realm, but his fists glowed with earthy yellow spiritual energy, and shockingly, he was holding his own against Tong Guan. Feng Bing waved his hand. All 8 members of the squad, except for Chu Yang, rushed the man in unison and subdued him instantly. "If you can gang up, don't solo. No point wasting time," Feng Bing said. seeing Chu Yang's surprised face. He offered a casual explanation. Chu Yang nodded quickly. Then Feng Bing walked up to the captured man, examined him closely, and suddenly, his face changed drastically. Feng Bing grabbed the man's right arm and pulled up his sleeve. There, on the man's arm, was a tattoo of a grotesque creature's head, brown-skinned, hideously twisted, and monstrous in appearance. Ancient Hellblood race. Feng Bing growled through gritted teeth as he recognized the mark. What's the ancient Hellblood race? Everyone present asked, confused. What's your purpose here? Feng Bing's emotions surged. He grabbed the man by the collar, his face dark and serious. The man sneered and let out a strange bird-like screech. He's signaling others. Feng Bing's face changed instantly. Without hesitation, he struck the man dead with a single palm. It's too late. His comrades probably know something's wrong, Wu Sanlang said, frowning. This was supposed to be a routine investigation about the 13 Cloud Chain bandits. How did it end up involving the ancient Hellbloods? Feng Bing said, rubbing his temples, clearly troubled. To Curian Feng, what exactly are the ancient Hellbloods? Tong Guan finally asked the question on everyone's mind. They're a race that shouldn't even exist in this world, Feng Bing replied grimly. Honestly, I only know bits and pieces myself. It's not something I can fully explain right now. Then, are we still going to investigate? Wu Sanlang asked. Of course we are. Let's head to the mountain peak, Feng Bing said resolutely. But if they already know we're coming, either they've fled or set up an ambush for us. It seems pointless now, Wu Sanlang argued. Given the uncertainty, I think we should report this to the main camp first. It's fine. I've got a plan, Feng Bing replied and immediately led the way toward the summit. The others exchanged glances, sighed, and had no choice but to follow. Elder Mo, why is Captain Feng so insistent? Something feels off, Chu Yang asked in confusion. Do you know what the real issue behind the 13 Cloud Chain bandits is? Elder Mo replied with a smile from within the ring. The Azure Cloud Battle Physique. Chu Yang paused, suddenly connecting the dots. The 100 battle physiques, those are things even emperors struggle to obtain. You think they'd really send 10 soldiers from the Blood Wolf Guard to handle something like this? Elder Mo chuckled. I get it now, we're just the vanguard, Chu Yang said, enlightened. No wonder Captain Feng was so driven, even if there was a trap waiting for them. The Blackwater River had a faintly fishy smell. It split the massive Blackwater Mountain down the middle. Towering trees loomed overhead, and the damp soil underfoot released a cool moisture. The group followed a narrow path all the way to the mountain peak. Strangely, they encountered no traps or ambushes on the way up, contrary to what they expected. There was no wind at the summit. Instead, the air was stiflingly hot. The Blood Wolf Guard began to suspect their enemy had fled. But then they saw them, a group of people in red robes, silently waiting at the top. At the center of the summit was a massive furnace, its flames burning in a strange purple-blue hue, crackling loudly. Above the furnace sat a cauldron filled with fresh blood, bubbling and steaming. The stench of blood carried on the sunlit breeze. Above the cauldron, 2 floating orbs spun slowly. One was azure, smooth and lustrous. The other was black, radiating a demonic aura. 2 of the 100 battle physiques. Elder Mo cried out in shock from the ring. What do you mean, 2? Chu Yang asked, stunned. That blue one is the Azure Cloud battle physique, and the black one, if I'm right, is the Dark Fiend battle physique, ranked 51st among the 100 battle physiques. Chu Yang locked his gaze onto the 2 floating pearls above the cauldron. By the furnace stood an old man in a red robe, silently stirring the contents with his hand. Beside him stood 3 more men in red. Boss 13, the rats are here, 2 of them said respectfully to the man in the center. Jean-Air, let's go meet them, said Boss 13 with a grin as he stepped forward. As humans, you willingly serve the ancient Hellblood race. You're a disgrace to our race, Feng Bing said coldly, glaring at Boss 13. The ancient Hellblood race? You people really are something, Boss 13 sneered. As long as I have power, who cares whether it's evil or righteous? You were lucky to escape back then, and now you've come back to die. Feng Bing's spiritual energy surged as he slowly drew out his massive hammer. It was the Blood Wolf Guard that accepted the mission from the true martial sacred ground to wipe us out back then. Wasn't it? Boss 13 asked. I don't know about the details, Feng Bing replied calmly. Coward. You're all going to die. Boss 13's eyes burned with hatred. 3 of his meridian gates burst open, releasing a crushing aura that engulfed the battlefield. True Meridian Realm. Feng Bing's expression turned grim. He remembered clearly back then Boss 13 had only been at the peak of the Spirit Meridian Realm. In just a few years, he had reached the true Meridian Realm. Though the breakthrough seemed unstable, it was still the genuine true Meridian Realm. Surprised, Boss 13 sneered. Back then, I escaped by sheer luck. While you all hunted me across the nation, I lived like a rat, hiding and scheming my revenge. But you were too strong. In the end, I joined the ancient Hellbloods just 1 month ago, and in that month I advanced to the true Meridian Realm. You can't even imagine the power of the ancient Hellbloods. So what? No matter how strong their power is, we'll never become their lapdogs. The catastrophe they brought upon the central continent is something no human will ever forget. Feng Bing's eyes blazed with conviction. With a shout, he charged forward, hammer raised high, and struck at Boss 13. Boss 13 might be a true Meridian Realm cultivator, but he only had 2 subordinates, Jean Yi and Jean Air. On the Blood Wolf Guard side, everyone was at least at the Meridian Forging Realm. Some were formation masters, adding strategic support to their side. They could hold their own for a while by sheer numbers. Yet, despite the chaos of battle, the old man in red standing by the furnace never even glanced over. He simply continued stirring the cauldron of blood, eyes blazing with fanaticism as he stared at the 2 floating orbs. Since you're here, you might as well come out, the old man said blandly. You members of the ancient Hellblood are truly brazen, said a cold voice from above. Du Tianyin appeared in midair, dark blue spirit force swirling around him. He sneered as he descended. You actually dare to show yourselves so openly. The times have changed, the old man said calmly. We of the ancient Hellblood race have returned. This is no longer the era of the human race. Du Tianyin narrowed his eyes, staring at the 2 floating pearls above the furnace. So your ancient Hellblood race is still clinging to these experiments, trying to fuse battle physiques. It's impossible. The ancient Hellblood race has always been pioneering and innovative, the old man replied indifferently. Unlike you humans, who are content with the status quo and full of smug pride. Then, the old man stripped off his red robe, and his entire appearance transformed dramatically. His body stretched to over 2 meters tall. 2 bull-like horns sprouted from his head. His eyes bulged unnaturally wide, and his nose grew sharp and prominent, with 2 streams of white breath puffing from his nostrils. His mouth became grotesquely wide, and he had almost no hair atop his head. His expression was twisted and terrifying. Didn't expect to be this lucky, to run into a pureblood ancient Hellblood, Du Tianyin said with a casual smile. A mighty aura of the desolate Meridian Realm surged from the old man. His gaze was stormy and cold as he glared at Du Tianyin. Then, spreading his 5 fingers, he launched 5 streaks of dark spirit force, like solid claws, directly at him. You're bringing the 100 battle physiques right to me? Then I'll gladly accept, Du Tianyin said, lifting his right hand and effortlessly crushing the 5 incoming energy blasts in his palm. In the next instant, like a bolt of lightning, he dashed forward with swirling gales beneath his feet. He appeared before the furnace and reached out toward the 2 floating pearls. The old man snorted, his aura exploding. Thick black spirit force wrapped around his arms as he lunged forward, punching at Du Tianyin's chest. You're still far too weak, Du Tianyin laughed. With a loud bang, the 5th meridian gate, Blood Veil, opened on his body. The aura of a Paragon Meridian Realm cultivator burst forth, forming a visible beam of white light that pierced the sky, warping the surrounding space. The old man's face twisted in shock. He didn't even have time to react before he was sent flying by a single slap from Du Tianyin. Paragon Meridian Realm! The old man gasped, wiping blood from the corner of his mouth. His eyes locked on Du Tianyin. Thanks for the gift, Du Tianyin said with a hearty laugh and once again reached for the 2 pearls. That's enough. This farce is over. A cold, disappointed voice echoed out. Suddenly, the spirit force in the sky began to rage. Lightning crackled as a dark hole, deep, vast, and suffocating, tore open in space. My lord! The moment the black hole appeared, the old man immediately dropped to his knees in worship. Pathetic! You managed to mess up something this simple, boomed a majestic voice from within the black hole. As soon as it appeared, Du Tianyin's entire body tensed. His heart pounded wildly. He felt a massive power lock onto him. From within the churning darkness, he faintly saw a throne, and seated upon it, a man. An Imperial Meridian Realm powerhouse, Du Tianyin said grimly. At that level, one could forge a true fate golden avatar. Every gesture carried the weight of universal laws and the potential to shatter worlds. The moment that black hole locked onto him, Du Tianyin knew this was a disaster. Thinking back, it made sense. The value of 200 battle physiques was immeasurable. How could the ancient Hellblood race trust such a task to a mere desolate Meridian Realm member and risk letting someone like him take the prize? If you want to kill me, go ahead, Du Tianyin said defiantly, face grim but unflinching. You remnants of the ancient Hellblood race are like sewer rats, filthy and doomed. One day you'll be wiped out for good. Hand it over. The voice from the black hole was commanding. Hand over what? Du Tianyin asked, face clouded with suspicion. We've been researching battle physique fusion for tens of thousands of years. As you humans well know, to merge battle physiques, you need Imperial blood. The voice from the black hole said coolly. I don't have any Imperial blood. I'm not a descendant of any Grand Emperor. Du Tianyin replied quickly, though his face tightened. There had once been a Grand Emperor named Du Tian, but Du Tianyin was no relation, it was just a coincidence in name. We laid a trap this large to draw you here. Of course we're certain, the voice said coldly. Open his spatial ring. Yes, my lord, the old man replied and moved toward Du Tianyin. Du Tianyin's expression changed drastically. How do they know I have Imperial blood? Years ago, he had entered a minor inheritance site of an ancient emperor, Grand Emperor Wan Kuan. There had been no godly artifacts or imperial treasures, only a single drop of Imperial blood. Du Tianyin had kept it hidden all this time, intending to use it to break into the Imperial Meridian Realm and open his 5th Meridian Gate. Little Yang, want 100 battle physique? Said old man Samsara to Chu Yang on the other side of the battlefield. I do, Chu Yang nodded. But in this situation, it seems impossible. Just an Imperial Meridian Realm, nothing to brag about. Back in my prime, I wouldn't have cared one bit, the old man said. In a moment, try to get as close to that furnace as you can. I'll channel my power into your body. For a few seconds, you'll have strength comparable to an Imperial Meridian Realm cultivator. But remember, only a few seconds. That's all your body can handle. Any more and it'll explode from the strain. Chu Yang paused, clenched his fists and said, All right, let's gamble everything. The old man was working on dismantling the seal on Du Tianyin's spatial ring. On the Blood Wolf Guard's side, the battle was still raging. Feng Bing's massive hammer swept through the air like a storm, his momentum only growing stronger, but the fight remained evenly matched. To the ancient Hellblood race, these fighters were small fry. Even Boss 13 was just one of their lapdogs. Boss 13's true Meridian Realm strength was unmatched on the field. Even with 10 warriors, the Blood Wolf Guard was completely overwhelmed. His palm, coated in black demonic energy, cracked the air with sonic booms. As it struck, all the Blood Wolf soldiers dodged except one. Chu Yang. He charged straight into the blow and was sent flying. But the direction he flew in was toward the furnace. Master now, Chu Yang roared. His shout drew the attention of everyone present. Even with an Imperial Meridian Realm powerhouse holding the field, this insignificant Spirit Meridian Realm ant dared to yell so loudly? Annoying! From within the black hole came a cold, bored voice. No action, no movement, just a word. And instantly, Chu Yang felt the very air around him freeze. Pressure built up in all directions, air collapsing on him like a crushing cage. His body threatened to implode. Just as his consciousness began to collapse, a surge of power flowed into his body, straight from the ring. After this surge of power fused with Chu Yang's body, a sharp light flashed in his eyes, and cracks began to appear in the very space around him. Then, with a loud boom, space shattered entirely. Boundless power erupted from Chu Yang's body. Above the sky, clouds churned with crimson light, and howling winds engulfed the entire mountaintop. Strands of samsara force radiated around him, and the laws of the world became chaotic. Space cycled endlessly between destruction and restoration. He stood like a supreme ruler, lord of all fate. All beneath heaven were but ants. He alone stood as emperor. Chu Yang slowly hovered into the air. When he clenched his fist, space in front of him shattered again with massive force. "Hurry up! Don't just stand there!" Old Man Samsara shouted from the ring, snapping him out of it. Chu Yang immediately snapped out of his trance. The spatial restraints around him were now meaningless, like illusions. With a single step, he arrived in front of the two floating pearls. From within the black hole, the figure's expression changed dramatically. Sensing Chu Yang's terrifying aura, a giant hand cloaked in dark mist descended from the sky, blotting out the sun as it came crashing down. Chu Yang's fist surged with samsara force and clashed against the massive hand. A deafening explosion erupted. An enormous mushroom cloud soared into the sky. "Go!" Du Tianyin shouted to the Blood Wolf Guard and then leapt into the air, fleeing into the distance. The others immediately followed, running for their lives down the mountain. Just as the explosion rang out, another dark hand emerged from the black hole, reaching toward the two floating pearls. Unwilling to back down, Chu Yang also reached out with samsara force. The two forces clashed, and the two spinning pearls were forcibly split apart. The black hand snatched the Dark Fiend battle physique, while Chu Yang secured the Azure Cloud battle physique. "Go now! You're out of time!" Old Man Samsara urged anxiously from the ring. "Damn it!" The voice from the black hole roared in fury. Another massive demonic hand surged out, aiming to crush Chu Yang. Chu Yang didn't hesitate. Samsara force surged across his body as he opened a spatial gate and stepped into it. The demonic palm followed, smashing the space apart, shattering the gate, but Chu Yang was already gone. The black hole floated silently in the air. The entire mountaintop had been razed to the ground. For the first time in tens of thousands of years, someone dares snatch something from the ancient Hellblood race. The voice was calm, but within it simmered unimaginable rage, like the silence before a cataclysm. Chu Yang weakly opened his eyes. His entire body felt drained, as if he had no strength left at all. In a daze, he sensed someone feeding him, but he didn't even have the strength to open his eyes. All he wanted was to fall into deep sleep, an endless sleep. As night deepened, crickets chirped in the forest, and the full moon hung silently over the treetops. A caravan moved slowly through a wooded path. An elderly man leading the group glanced at the darkening sky and shouted, "Let's set up camp here for the night. We should reach Fire Beacon City by tomorrow." The caravan had about 20 people and 3 carriages. The guards wore matching blue tunics, with a large embroidered Ning character on the back. Just then, a shout came from one of the carriages. "Miss, the young man you rescued yesterday is awake." Chu Yang opened his eyes again, still feeling weak, though the fatigue had lessened. His spirit force, however, felt completely dried up. He didn't rush to start cultivating. Instead, he took in his surroundings. He appeared to be inside a carriage cabin. The air carried a light fragrance, like the perfume a young lady might wear. Before he could look around further, the curtain of the carriage was lifted. A girl in a flowing blue dress stepped inside. "You're awake," she said with a gentle smile and a soft voice. "Yeah. Can I ask where I am, ma'am?" Chuyang asked, still dazed but curious. "We're from the Ning family of Fire Beacon City," the girl replied with a smile. "We were returning from a trade run in another city when we saw you unconscious by the roadside. I brought you along. I'm Ning Yuyen," she added. "Thank you very much." "I'm Chuyang," he said seriously. "You saved my life. I'll never forget it. If there's ever anything you need, just say the word." Ning Yuyen chuckled and shook her head. "I didn't save you for repayment. You're still very weak. Get some rest." After she left, Chuyang began communicating with Elder Mo. "Master, are you still there?" A weak voice replied from within the ring. Elder Mo sounded exhausted. "Little Yang, I'm fine. Just used too much soul power. I'll need to sleep for a while. Take care of yourself. If you come across any soul-restoring herbs, keep an eye out for me." "I understand, Master," Chuyang replied, worried. "I'll find something to help you recover soon." Then, Chuyang sat cross-legged and began circulating the war immortal tactics, slowly absorbing spirit force to recover. As vast spirit force flowed into him, his organs, muscles, and bones began to heal. The weakness faded bit by bit. He realized that after fusing with Elder Mo's power, despite the severe side effects, his strength had unknowingly advanced to the peak of the Spirit Meridian realm, just one step away from breaking into the Meridian Forging realm by unlocking the Deep Bone Gate. A surprising but welcome breakthrough. The stars sparkled in the night sky, which looked especially beautiful. A gentle evening breeze rustled the leaves and softly caressed the land. The caravan had already set up camp. The guards were boiling water and gathering around the fire, preparing a meal after a long day. A handmaiden sat with Ning Yuyen, serving freshly prepared meat soup. "Little Chui, eat something too." "No need to fuss over me," Ning Yuyen said with a warm smile. Just then, the elderly leader of the caravan approached, his expression worried. "Miss, that young man woke up? You didn't ask who he really is." "Uncle Ning, it's all right. I'm good at reading people. He doesn't seem like some wicked scoundrel," she replied with a shake of her head. "You're kind-hearted, miss," Uncle Ning said after a moment of thought. "Since you insist on letting him travel with us, I won't object, but I still hope you'll keep your distance. We don't really know who he is. Once we reach Fire Beacon City, let's send him on his way." "I understand. Thank you, Uncle Ning." Ning Yuyen nodded politely. The night passed in silence. One of the guards yawned during the late shift. The sky in the east began to pale. Dawn was breaking. Chuyang stepped down from the carriage, stretching lazily as the morning glow painted the sky a brilliant red. He walked up to the two night watch guards and asked with a smile, "Brothers, may I ask how far we are from Profound Origin City?" Profound Origin City is to the south. Even on a flying desert horse, it would take at least 7 days to get there. One of the guards replied warily. The other looked displeased and added, "Kid, now that you're healed, you should leave. That carriage you've been sleeping in for days? It originally belonged to our young lady. Don't overstay your welcome." Chuyang smiled without responding. He was unfamiliar with the area, so naturally, he planned to stick with the caravan until they reached the nearest city. Once there, he'd leave on his own. The caravan rolled steadily toward Fire Beacon City, encountering no danger along the way. Over the past few days, Chuyang had grown more familiar with Ning Yuyen. She was the second young lady of the Ning clan, a major family in Fire Beacon City, and was in charge of the family's merchant caravan. She had personally gone to another city on business, and on her way back had rescued Chuyang. When the spatial gate had opened, interference from the ancient Hellblood race had thrown off the coordinates, and even Chuyang hadn't known where he'd end up. Looking at things now, the situation wasn't too bad. At least he was still in the western region. Fire Beacon City, west of the 100-foot tower, bathed in autumn's sea breeze at dusk. Fire Beacon City was under the jurisdiction of the Violet Sun Empire. A wide, clear river flowed in front of the city walls, like a giant, silvery dragon glimmering with light. The river's end was unseen, winding into the distant horizon. Chuyang followed the caravan across the drawbridge and entered the city. The sights inside were far more bustling than he'd expected. Vendors lined both sides of the streets, shouting loudly as they sold spiritual pills, divine weapons, and martial arts manuals. The central street was packed with people. Some youths wore swords at their waists, others carried curved blades on their backs, and some rode on rare demonic beasts. In the surrounding balconies and courtyards, noble daughters and refined young ladies stood watching the flow of talents below, hoping to spot a worthy husband. "Lady Ning, your fire beacon city is quite lively," Chuyang said with a smile. "Today, the Heavenly Sword Sect is here to recruit disciples, so of course it's livelier than usual," Ning Yuyan replied, smiling. Heavenly Sword Sect? Chuyang's interest was piqued. He had been looking for a sect to join, not only for shelter but also to access cultivation resources. He might even find a spiritual herb that could restore Elder Mo's soul. But Chuyang didn't know how strong the Heavenly Sword Sect was. Sensing his hesitation, Ning Yuyan explained, "In the western region, the Heavenly Sword Sect is considered a third-tier force, but its sect master, Yu Bewley, is a genuine Paragon Meridian Realm cultivator." "Miss Ning, how are these tiers ranked?" Chuyang asked earnestly. He had never left Sunshine Village before. The most powerful person there had been Master Mo. In terms of worldly knowledge, he was basically a blank slate. If a sect doesn't have a cultivator beyond the desolate Meridian Realm, it's considered unranked, Ning Yuyan explained as they walked. If a sect has at least one Paragon Meridian Realm expert, it's ranked as third tier. A second-tier force must have someone at the Imperial Meridian Realm. A first-tier force is defined by having a Empyrean Meridian Realm powerhouse. Then is the true martial sacred ground a first-tier force? Chuyang asked. No. Ning Yuyan shook her head. Above the first tier, there's another class, Imperial lineages. Each of these lineages has dozens of Empyrean Meridian Realm experts, and they inherit divine techniques and secrets left behind by ascending Grand Emperors of past generations. There are even rumors that some of them still have ancient God Meridian Realm ancestors hidden within. Chuyang was silent. He clenched his fists tightly. At that moment, he realized how insignificant he truly was. After a long pause, he looked up, eyes sharp and full of determination. "Miss Ning, I've made up my mind. I want to participate in the Heavenly Sword Sect's disciple selection." He had figured it out. No matter how strong others were, he couldn't aim too high from the start. He had to climb step by step. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. One day, he believed, he would gain the strength to stand against even the mightiest. "All right, be careful then, young Master Chu," Ning Yuyan encouraged him. "I believe you'll pass the selection. You saved my life, Miss Ning. I can't repay that. But if you ever need anything, you can find me at the Heavenly Sword Sect," Chuyang said sincerely. After bidding her farewell, Chuyang followed the crowd toward the city center. Elsewhere, in the Hu residence, the deep night was wrapped in an eerie silence. Everyone in the Hu estate had gathered in the main hall, visibly anxious. The dark night felt like a silent, lurking beast, ready to devour the world. The hall was brightly lit, but no one felt safe. Before Su Zimo and the others had arrived, Hu Yuanwei had tried this method before, gathering everyone in one place for the night. But it had never worked. By morning, someone would always turn up dead. The only ones who remained in the Hu residence were those willing to stay for the extra wages. Otherwise, most would have fled by now. Su Zimo found a reclining chair, yawned, and lay down to sleep. Not long after, a haunting, sorrowful singing voice echoed through the Hu estate. The song was eerie, like a mix of a woman crying and teeth grinding. It sent chills down the spine and made everyone's ears uncomfortable. Outside the eastern wing, Wang Yang, Xing Lin, and Xiao Yu each held torches. Lanterns on either side of the courtyard painted their faces red with flickering light. "Where's that singing coming from?" Wang Tao asked, frowning. The three strained to listen, but the voice came from every direction, distant and close, as if the sound were drifting in from all sides. We'll search every room. I don't believe it can hide forever, Wang Tao said coldly. Senior brother Wang, we should be cautious, Xiao Yu warned from the side. Cowardly tricks like this, if it had real power, it wouldn't need to play games. Wang Tao scoffed, though he still nodded. The three began searching the rooms in the eastern wing one by one. The Hu residence wasn't large, but even by midnight, they found nothing. Yet the eerie woman's song still echoed throughout the compound. This is getting strange, Xinglin muttered, frowning. The night passed in silence. Though they had stayed busy all night, the group had found nothing. As the sky began to brighten, the disciples of Divine Sun's sacred ground returned to the main hall. Wang Tao was the first to speak. Steward Hu, did anything happen last night? No. Hu Yuanwei quickly shook his head. I just did a roll call. Everyone's safe and sound. Looks like that thing is nothing special. Just some trickster pretending to be a ghost. Wang Tao sighed in relief. From the side, Su Zimo stood up from his recliner, stretched lazily, and looked at Wang Tao. Young man, your brow is dark. Might be a sign of bloodshed ahead. What's that supposed to mean? Wang Tao asked, frowning. Su Zimo didn't answer. He just smiled faintly and walked outside the hall, starting his morning exercises under the rising sun. Let's not argue, Hu Yuanwei quickly intervened. I've had breakfast prepared. You've all worked hard through the night. Come and eat. I still hope you'll stay a few more days and help me catch the killer. Wang Tao glanced at Su Zimo and muttered, I'm going to the toilet, before walking off alone. During breakfast, everyone gathered, except Wang Tao, who didn't show up even after a long wait. Little Gui joked, Did your senior brother Wang slipped into the toilet or what? I'll go check on him, said Xinglin, frowning. He suppressed his irritation and left the dining hall. Soon after, a maid came running in, trembling and terrified. Master, young Master Wang Tao, is dead. What? Hu Yuanwei dropped his wine cup, face drained of color. He stood up in shock and rushed outside, firing off questions at the maid. Wang Tao was dead, but not in the latrine. He had died in his room. That morning, a maid had passed by and noticed a strong stench of blood. Curious, she had opened the door. What she saw made her stomach turn. Wang Tao was lying on his bed, his head severed, blood soaking the sheets. His eyes were closed, and his expression oddly peaceful, as if someone had cut off his head while he slept, and he hadn't even noticed. Didn't he just say he was going to the bathroom? He was fine just moments ago. How? Hu Yuanwei stammered, unable to get the words out. Just then, Xinglin returned. He had checked the latrine and found no trace of Wang Tao. Everyone stared in stunned silence at the horrific scene. Xinglin walked over to inspect the body. He examined the blood coagulation and the temperature of the flesh around the wound. After a long pause, he finally said, He's been dead for at least 6 hours. What nonsense is that? He was with us all night. We even talked this morning, Xiao Yu said, face pale with disbelief. This mission may be beyond our capabilities, Xinglin said grimly, turning to Hu Yuanwei. I'm sorry, Steward Hu. We're giving up this mission. Once I'm back, I'll submit it for reassessment. Maybe a more senior disciple will come later. Though anxious, Hu Yuanwei knew he couldn't force them to stay. That very morning, Xinglin and Xiao Yu left the town and returned to Divine Sun's sacred ground, skipping breakfast entirely. Master Su, are you and your companions leaving too? Hu Yuanwei asked Su Zimo and his group. Steward Hu, how about this? Would you like to watch a good show? Su Zimo smiled. A good show? Hu Yuanwei asked nervously. Su Zimo then gathered Hu Yuanwei, Little Gui, and Lin Ruhu and whispered a plan to them. Seeing their odd expressions, Su Zimo added, If you're too scared, you don't have to do it. I can handle it alone. What's there to be afraid of? Look at what my household has become, Hu Yuanwei muttered. After some hesitation, he made up his mind. That day, several more of the Hu estate's servants resigned. No amount of money could make them stay after Wang Tao's death. It was the last straw. After breakfast, Suzimo pulled out a reclining chair and lay back, basking in the sun. He was thinking about his breakthrough to the true Meridian realm. He had been at the peak of the Meridian forging realm for a while now. Then, slowly, he activated the power within the pearl. The third Meridian gate, Dawn Wind, was located in the chest. Thanks to the dual boost of God Meridian energy from the bead and the 10 Meridian fruit, the gate burst open with ease. It was like breaking through a decaying dam, no resistance at all. With a loud boom, spirit force surged through Suzimo's body like a raging river breaking its banks. From heaven descends the yellow river's flow, rushing endlessly into the sea below. The rich spirit force washed through him, reinforcing his organs, muscles, and bones. Spring Wheel, Deep Bone, Dawn Wind, the first 3 gates formed a minor cycle of energy. The 12 gates formed a major cycle, divided into 4 minor cycles of 3. Suzimo could clearly feel his spirit force several times stronger than before. Once he unlocked the 4th gate, Vast Sea, he'd even gained the ability to fly. In the center courtyard of the Hu estate, various low-grade spirit herbs were growing, brightly colored flowers blooming among the beds. Butterflies fluttered through the blossoms, and Hu Yuanwai's 4-year-old daughter ran joyfully among them, trying to catch one. Big brother Su, look, I caught another butterfly. The girl, Hu Yingying, ran up and bragged proudly. Good girl. Suzimo bent down and gently pinched her plump little cheeks. He almost squished her face into a different shape. Tearful, Hu Yingying rubbed her reddened cheeks and ran off to her father to complain. Behind her, Suzimo burst into hearty laughter. The day passed in peace, but as night fell once more, a tense gloom returned to the Hu residence. As the sun dipped below the horizon and darkness crept in, everyone in the estate felt a chill settle over their hearts. Inside the hall, Hu Yuanwai clutched a wine cup, drinking one glass after another, trying to muster courage. Brother Su, are you sure about this? Little Gue asked nervously. Would I bother if I weren't sure? Suzimo replied with a calm smile. I believe in Brother Zimo, Lin Ruhu said firmly. They all looked up at the pitch-black sky. And then, once again, the sorrowful, haunting song of the ghost woman echoed across the estate. Thoughts of the author on the main characters and the story. To be honest, my mentality completely collapsed today. Because of this book about a villain. The most hotly debated question so far has been, what exactly makes a true villain? Everyone has their own idea of what a villain should be. I've always wanted to write a villain with flesh and blood, depth and emotion. But I've come to realize, some readers still prefer brainless villains. In my understanding, there's actually no such thing as a villain or a protagonist. In this world, there are only winners and losers. Winners portray themselves as saviors and heroes, while painting losers as evil, ruthless villains. Because history is always written by the victors. Why did I want to write this book? Because I've seen too many novels where the protagonist is always the big hero, always standing on the moral high ground, always justified no matter what they do. They're so perfect, it's like they have no flaws at all. And the villain? Always awful, committing every imaginable crime, with not a single redeeming trait. I keep asking myself, are there really people that perfect in the world? And are there really people that terrible? Good and evil are never so clearly divided. The world has always been gray. Everyone has a side they don't show. Heroes have flaws. Villains have virtues. The kind of villain I want to write is like Suzimo. To outsiders, he can be shameless, ruthless, unpredictable, and two-faced. But at the same time, he's loyal and affectionate. He has parents, close brothers, and a girl he likes. Many people might say, what kind of villain is this? He's just a protagonist in disguise. But I seriously want to ask, only heroes are allowed to care about others? Villains can't have emotions too? Are villains not human? Do they not have feelings and desires? Do they not have parents? Do they not have things or people they want to protect? Do they really have zero redeeming qualities? Why is it that their entire life gets invalidated? Why is their whole world painted black with no trace of white, just to make the protagonist look even more flawless? They're human, flesh, blood, and soul. Not machines. That's not the kind of villain I want to write. Some readers want a villain like this. Suzumo is the flashiest guy in the sect, surrounded by bootlickers who constantly mock the protagonist and provoke hatred. Then, instead of the protagonist turning the tables in a typical power fantasy, the villain one-ups them and becomes the one doing the face-slapping. That's your classic brainless villain trope. Yes, I admit my book contains some familiar tropes, but it's not entirely a trope novel. I want every character to feel alive, like a real person. Suzumo doesn't do evil for the sake of being a villain. He acts on impulse. When he's in a good mood, he might play the role of a great hero. When he's in a bad mood, he might slaughter an entire city of innocent people. He doesn't care about public opinion or what the world thinks. He's flesh and blood. He has people and things he wants to protect. And yes, he can be vicious, ruthless, and cunning when it comes to outsiders. He's not a hero, but he's also not a soulless killer. In truth, the label villain is something defined by the winner, just like history. And what Suzumo wants to be is a winner. Whether he's called a villain or a hero, that depends on his mood. As for Chuyang, some readers don't like him because he's already been branded a loser. But I never tried to paint him as a joke. In fact, I spent several chapters building him up. He has good qualities. He's an ordinary young man from a small village who, for the sake of the woman he loves, works hard, perseveres, and overcomes hardship. He has no powerful background, yet he doesn't flinch when facing the true martial sacred ground. Instead, he wants to grow stronger through effort. These are admirable traits. Even if his efforts are ultimately crushed by Suzumo's overwhelming strength, even if they seem pathetic or laughable in comparison, that doesn't mean he's worthless. His life isn't all darkness. He has qualities worth learning from. As for Bai Lixiao, some people say she is a whore. She clearly likes Chuyang, yet agrees to be Suzumo's fiancée. She enjoys the resources of the true martial sacred ground but shows no gratitude, treating it as a stepping stone. But with this character, I've brought in a sense of real-world helplessness. She's just like you and me. She's unwilling to live an ordinary life in some tiny village. She wants to rise above, to be somebody, just like all of us. But a tiny village could never fulfill her ambition. She needed resources, connections, and much more. So she had to go to the true martial sacred ground. But after gaining those things, nothing comes free in this world. Her fate no longer belonged to her. That's the price. She wanted to be with Chuyang. But how could the sect allow their cultivated saintess to marry some village nobody? If she wanted to control her own fate, she had to grow even stronger. So she had no choice but to compromise, marry Suzumo to gain Su Qingshan's support, then use Suzumo to get more resources, to grow stronger. Maybe she's selfish. Maybe she's manipulative. But everything she did was to become strong enough to be with the one she loved. She had no other choice. Without the support of the true martial sacred ground, she was just an ordinary village girl. She couldn't afford to choose freely. Some readers even comment, Suzumo acts like a brain-dead moron. Why not just kill Chuyang right away? What's the point of keeping him around? Honestly, I'd love to just have Suzumo kill Chuyang. But this is a novel. If he's killed off too early, what else is there to write? Should we just end the story right there? Some people might like what I'm doing. Others might not. But this is the story I want to tell. You should all know by now, I'm not making money writing this book. In fact, I'm losing money every month, 600 yuan a month to keep my full attendance status. So I sincerely ask, if you don't like this story, please just click the X and leave. I also genuinely hope you find a villain novel that suits your taste, be it trope-heavy, dark-themed, or whatever else. As for this novel, I will not slander Chuyang just to make Suzumo look better. Nor will I force Suzumo to commit atrocities just to make him seem more villainous. Everyone in this story has flesh, blood, and soul. Whether they win or lose, that's what I want to express. So please, stop asking me what makes a villain. Outside of the truly inhuman monsters, even the bad guys have consciences. To put it simply, Suzimo doesn't aim to be a villain, he aims to be a winner. A winner who gets to write history. I won't force my views on you, and I hope you won't try to invalidate mine either. For those who stick around, I'll try my best to write a story worthy of your support. For those who leave, may we meet again someday, somewhere down the road. The night was draped in an eerie veil. The woman's song grew increasingly suffocating. Inside the main hall, Suzimo smiled at Steward, who then drew the broadsword on his back, Shadow Tyrant, and stabbed himself in the abdomen. The curved blade pierced his body, but instead of the expected gush of blood, Suzimo's entire figure began to fade and become illusory. Little Gue and the others exchanged glances and swallowed hard. Just suicide. What's there to be afraid of? Lin Ruhu muttered, then grabbed a blade and stabbed himself as well. Steward Hu and Little Gue, seeing this, nodded to each other, gritted their teeth, and followed suit. The four of them collapsed silently in the hall. The night deepened, and the flickering lamplight nearby began to dim and waver. There was no pain as the blade entered. Suzimo and the others simply felt the scenery around them distort. The image of the main hall twisted and warped. When their vision cleared again, they found themselves sitting at the dining table in the side hall. Leftover food still sat on the table, with the smell of fish lingering in the air. What is this? Steward Hu asked in confusion. He distinctly remembered that after dinner, the servants had cleared the table, and they had all gone to the main hall. Standing up, he noticed that the only two remaining servants of the Hu estate were standing by the door of the side hall. Both had their eyes closed. Steward Hu patted their shoulders hard. No reaction. They were breathing steadily, like they were just asleep. Seeing everyone's confused expressions, Suzimo stood and smiled. The darkness has come. The whole town has been pulled into a dream world. Before dawn breaks, everyone will return to reality from the dream. You're saying, everything that just happened, even our suicides, was all a dream? Steward Hu asked, visibly shaken. Light dream states can be broken by fright, Suzimo explained. But deep dream states, you can't escape unless you commit suicide inside the dream. I get it now. That explains Wang Tao's death. Little Gui's eyes lit up. That night when they were patrolling the Hu estate, they were actually inside a dream. In reality, they'd all already fallen asleep, helpless as lambs to the slaughter. No wonder by the time morning came and the dream collapsed, Wang Tao had been dead for 6 or 7 hours. He was killed during the dream itself. Exactly, Suzimo nodded. In fact, tonight we were pulled into the dream world right after dinner. The table being cleared, us going to the main hall, even our suicides, they were all part of the dream. I see. Steward Hu nodded in realization, then asked, Young Master Su, then who's the killer? We all had dinner together, Suzimo said with a smirk. So who's missing now? That's your answer. Everyone looked at each other in confusion. But we're all here, Little Gue said. Are you sure? Suzimo asked, the smile still on his face. The next moment, a realization struck them all like lightning. Their eyes widened as they shouted in unison. Hu Yingying. That's impossible. My daughter is only 4 years old. Steward Hu stumbled backward, unwilling to believe it. Didn't your daughter fall seriously ill not long ago? Suzimo asked slowly. Are you certain? She's still really your daughter? Steward Hu's face went pale. He thought back carefully. Ever since her illness, his daughter had felt different. But he'd dismissed it, chalking it up to a child's unpredictable temperament. The mournful singing still echoed in the air, but unlike the distant, ethereal quality it had in the dream, this time it felt chillingly real. Steward Hu walked out of the side hall, following the sound of the voice. On the way, Little Gue asked, Senior Brother Su, if we were all trapped in the dream earlier, why didn't she just kill us all at once? She didn't want to kill us all at once, Suzimo replied with a smile. She was fattening us up. Fattening? Little Gue repeated, clearly not understanding. Suzimo smiled and didn't elaborate. Walking at the front, Steward, who felt the singing grow louder and clearer. The group soon stopped in front of a small courtyard. "This is Inger's courtyard," Steward, who said grimly. They entered. Su Zimo kicked open the central room's door. The singing abruptly stopped. Seated on the windowsill, dressed in a pure white dress, was Hu Yingying. Her slender little legs dangled in the air as she played a mouthpiece that resembled a harmonica. She looked up in surprise at the intruders. In her hands, she still held the instrument to her lips. At her feet lay a small red beast. It had no limbs and resembled a dolphin. Its body floated weightlessly like a jellyfish. It opened its eyes slowly, hovering silently in midair. Its nose and mouth were barely visible, but its big round eyes looked soft and innocent, almost cute. "Inger, is that really you?" Steward, who asked in a trembling voice. "Daddy, what are you saying?" Hu Yingying blinked her big, innocent eyes. "You're not Yingying," Steward, who muttered, then slowly stepped aside. The girl didn't panic. She simply looked at them with a mocking smile. The red beast hovered above the floor, clearly ready to attack. Well, so someone from the Divine Gate came all the way from the Elden Lands to stir up trouble in the western region, Su Zimo said as he stepped forward, smirking. "Oh? Looks like you've seen the world." Hu Yingying replied with a light, "Oh," of surprise. "You were the one who broke my dream world, weren't you?" "Your dream world?" Su Zimo chuckled. "If I'm not mistaken, the dream world was actually created by that little guy." He pointed at the red creature and clicked his tongue. "A nightmare beast, ranked 7th on the list of celestial wonders." Strictly speaking, Su Zimo's true reason for coming to 10 Mile Town was to capture this nightmare beast. Dreams are considered a branch of the River of Time. In his previous life, after Su Zimo had reached the Paragon Meridian realm, he should have begun forging his own path in martial arts. But back then, he was lost, uncertain about his path, unable to break through further. That was, until he unintentionally arrived in 10 Mile Town. In that previous life, the nightmare beast hadn't been discovered so early. It had spent a long time growing and maturing, its dream powers covering several hundred miles. It was under the pressure of life and death within the nightmare beast's dreamscape that Su Zimo first comprehended the profound mysteries of the River of Time. Past, present, future. He took his first step on the path of his own martial Tao and ultimately created the technique he now cultivated, Grand Freedom Sovereign Codex. The nightmare beast's dream power was incredibly helpful to Su Zimo's cultivation. Whether he could break into the God Meridian realm and elevate his Tao even higher depended critically on this creature. Dreams are a tributary of the River of Time. For instance, you might suddenly realize a moment in real life feels incredibly familiar, like you've experienced it long ago. When you think carefully, you might remember that you once dreamed about this very event happening in the future. You just didn't realize it at the time. In his previous life, Su Zimo had successfully captured this nightmare beast. It had played a vital role in helping him refine his martial Tao. Later on, however, the nightmare beast had died. But now that life had given him another chance, the creature once again hadn't escaped his grasp. The nightmare beast feeds on dreams. Like little Gue had asked earlier, why didn't it kill everyone at once after trapping them in the dreamscape? That's because this nightmare beast was still in its juvenile stage. It only needed to consume one person's dream each day to survive. The others were merely being raised as livestock, ensuring a steady food supply. The nightmare beast was extremely rare. As far as Su Zimo knew, the only place in the entire primordial heartlands where one could find such a beast was in the Elden Lands. The Elden Lands were one of the 10 forbidden grounds, long since occupied by an organization called Divine Gate. In every era, the only people who could access the Elden Lands, aside from Grand Emperors, were a mere handful of chosen individuals. "Seems like you know quite a bit," Hu Yingying said, eyeing Su Zimo in surprise. She waved her right hand, white spirit force rising from her body. The nightmare beast let out a sky-piercing roar. The sleek, floating form shot toward Su Zimo. From the side, little Gue quickly pulled out his iron staff, unleashing his demon berserker staff technique. The shadows of the staff layered like mountains, slicing the air with sharp whoosh sounds. Dark spirit force gathered on the weapon as it came crashing down on the nightmare beast. But strangely, the nightmare beast didn't dodge. The iron staff passed right through its body, hitting nothing at all. The nightmare beast opened its small mouth and let out a series of strange bloop 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 sound waves. Little Gue immediately began bleeding from all 7 orifices. Felt like a massive boulder had slammed into him. He was launched across the room and slammed into the door with a crash. But he quickly leapt back to his feet, wiped the blood from his face, and looked at the nightmare beast with serious determination. "You all step aside, normal attacks won't work on it," Suzimo said, waving his hand. The nightmare beast didn't truly exist in the physical world. It resided in a dimensional space, which is how it could consume the dreams of others so freely. Suzimo's spirit force surged, activating all 3 of his open meridian gates. This was the first time he was unleashing the true power of his own path. The Grand Freedom Sovereign Codex its power from the river of time. Ripples of temporal energy danced in his palms. As the nightmare beast charged toward him, Suzimo's hands formed a net of temporal power, engulfing the entire creature. The nightmare beast roared in protest, releasing bursts of sound wave bubbles from its mouth. Suzimo smiled calmly as the temporal net compressed around the creature. The nightmare beast shrieked in alarm as its body shrunk smaller and smaller, until it was no larger than a fist. Suzimo grabbed it and, without hesitation, swallowed it whole. After reaching the true Meridian realm, Suzimo had formed a spatial domain inside his body, similar to a cultivator's dantian. Within that space were countless glowing points of light, like stars in the night sky, dazzling and brilliant. Once he unlocked one more Meridian gate and reached the desolate Meridian realm, he would be able to forge his true fate soul. Those shining points were Tao resonance fragments, the raw material to forge that soul. The nightmare beast now resided inside that internal space, thrashing and struggling in vain. But the dimensional space of the beast had already been sealed by Suzimo's internal world. It was trapped in another layer of reality. In short, Suzimo's inner world completely imprisoned the nightmare beast. Could float, rage, and scream, but it could no longer escape. "What did you do?" Huingying shouted in horror, trying to summon the nightmare beast, only to find the bond severed. "How about we make a deal?" Suzimo said with a grin. "What deal?" Huingying backed away nervously, full of suspicion. "Bring me another nightmare beast, and I'll spare your life," Suzimo replied. "In your dreams," she sneered, and leapt out the nearby window. Suzimo calmly drew Shadow Tyrant from his back. A slash of dark blade light swept through the air, slicing space itself. The blade aura, coated in the power of annihilation, struck Huingying from behind. Black mist burst from her body, and a demonic face, twisted and hideous, rose into the air. The face locked eyes with Suzimo, then dissolved into a beam of light and vanished into the distance. Little Gue raised his staff to give chase, but Suzimo held him back. "Don't bother. I'm counting on her to bring me another nightmare beast for revenge," Suzimo chuckled. He gazed at the fading black mist. "They say the people of Divine Gate are filthy rich. They control one of the forbidden grounds after all. Dangerous, yes, but filled with hidden treasures." As the black mist vanished, Huingying's body collapsed to the floor. Steward Hu rushed over and cradled her in his arms. "There's no saving her. She's already dead," Suzimo said, shaking his head as he met the man's pleading gaze. He then retrieved the mouth harp from her body. Because the nightmare beast was still in its juvenile stage, its dreamscapes were full of flaws. That's why it needed this instrument to play a lullaby, numbing the senses of those trapped in the dreams. The night passed uneventfully. After resolving the incident at the Hu residence, Suzimo and his group prepared to leave. Huingying ultimately could not be saved. Steward Hu was forced to accept this painful truth. He told Suzimo that perhaps this was retribution for the blood-stained fortune he'd amassed over the first half of his life. That heaven had sent this as punishment. He had decided to dissolve the Hu estate, donate all of his wealth to help the poor, and find a peaceful village somewhere to live out the rest of his days in seclusion. The three of them rode their soaring sand horses toward the true martial sacred ground. As Su Zimo looked back at the small town standing quietly on the vast land, he felt their journey had been quite fulfilling. By dusk, they arrived at a city called Clear Wind City. As night gradually fell, they decided to rest here for the night and continue their journey the next day. Once inside the city, they found the streets bustling with life, crowded with teenagers around 15 or 16 years old. They found an inn and stepped inside. "Will you be dining or staying the night?" the innkeeper asked. "Both," said little Gue, taking out a few spirit crystals. "Dining's fine, but I'm afraid all the rooms are booked," the innkeeper said apologetically. "Business is that good?" little Gue muttered. "You must be new to Clear Wind City," the innkeeper chuckled. "You see, tomorrow is the Celestial Tiger Academy's entrance exam, so young people from all the surrounding cities have come here. I'd wager there's not a single inn left in town with a spare room." "Celestial Tiger Academy?" Su Zimo smiled faintly. He remembered this academy had something rather interesting inside. It was of no use to him, but for Lin Ruhu, it could be a huge opportunity. "Let's eat first," Su Zimo said to the innkeeper. "Bring us the best dishes you have." The three sat down at an empty table. Little Gue looked at Su Zimo curiously. "Senior brother, I've heard the Celestial Tiger Academy has some serious backing. Is that true?" "Pretty much," Su Zimo replied. "It's a branch of the Heavenly Tao Academy." The Heavenly Tao Academy was considered the greatest academy on the primordial heartlands, with a history so ancient it could no longer be traced. Legend had it that the academy was founded even before the imperial era, in the primordial era. It had educated many legendary figures throughout the ages, including Grand Emperor Hung Yu and Grand Emperor Mu, who both studied there in their youth. The main campus of Heavenly Tao Academy was located in the Middle Continent, but they had also established 4 branch campuses, one on each of the 4 major continents. Every year, these 4 branches held a grand competition, and the top students were sent directly to the Middle Continent's main academy to study. "Tomorrow, we'll drop by Celestial Tiger Academy," Su Zimo said as he ate. "So we're not returning to the sect yet?" Lin Ruhu asked. "It won't take long, probably just a day," Su Zimo replied. "Where are we sleeping tonight, then?" little Gue asked. "With fists this big, you think we won't find a place?" Su Zimo said with a smirk. "I got it," little Gue grinned, putting down his chopsticks and walking over to the next table. There, a teenage boy and a middle-aged man in blue robes were eating. They appeared to be father and son, likely in town for the Celestial Tiger Academy exam. "Do you two have a room here?" little Gue asked. "Yes," the man replied, confused. "We arrived early and reserved one in advance." "Oh, that's great," little Gue nodded. Then his face turned fierce. "You were too loud just now while eating, disturbed my meal. So, what are you going to do about it?" "But we didn't even say anything," the man replied in shock. "I said you were loud, so you were loud. Are you calling me a liar?" Little Gue sneered. "Brother," the man said cautiously. Before he could finish, little Gue slammed his palm onto the table, shattering it into pieces. He glared at the man. "You think you can address me by name? You're lucky I'm in a good mood today. If it were any other day, you'd already be headless. Hand over your 2 rooms, and I'll pretend this never happened." "You're bullying us." The teenage boy drew his sword angrily. "You're just trying to steal our rooms because you arrived late." "Jair, stop talking," the man scolded harshly, then turned to little Gue with a forced smile. "He's young and doesn't understand. Don't take offense. Since we disturbed you, we'll give you our 2 rooms." He took his reluctant son and left the inn. "He's got potential," Su Zimo said as he watched them go. "Knows when to bend instead of break." Though the man was only at the Spirit Meridian realm, he clearly understood how to read the situation, when to resist and when to yield. After dinner, the 3 returned to their rooms. There were 2 rooms, one for Su Zimo, and the other for Lin Ruhu and Little Gue. The stars glittered across the deep black sky. It was getting late. The streets, once bustling, had begun to quiet down. Walking outside, the young man still looked indignant. "Father, why didn't we argue back? Why give them our rooms? We didn't do anything wrong." The middle-aged man placed his hands on his son's shoulders and said seriously, "Son, weakness is a sin. Tomorrow, when you enter Celestial Tiger Academy, you must pass the test. Train hard. Remember this feeling of helplessness. Someday, you must become a man above all others." "I understand." The boy nodded. In that moment, the seed of strength was planted in his young heart. The sleeping city slowly awakened with the first ray of sunlight at dawn. Outside there in window 20 meters down, the main street grew lively once again as more and more people filled it, ready for the academy's entrance day. The steaming aroma of fresh buns lingered in the morning air. The youths who had come to participate in the Celestial Tiger Academy entrance exams had woken up early, dressed neatly, fastened their swords and sheathed their blades. They were ready to take the first step that might change their fates, to enter the academy and make a name for themselves. Su Zimo and his companions finished getting ready and headed straight to the academy. At this moment, Clear Wind City was lively and crowded. The closer they got to the academy, the thicker the crowds became. Although Celestial Tiger Academy was just a branch of the Heavenly Tao Academy, it wasn't limited to just one location. As far as Su Zimo knew, there were over 10 Celestial Tiger Academies in the Western region alone. Across the entire Eastern continent, their number even exceeded 100. These academies were among the most formidable institutions. They accepted all students, regardless of status or race. As long as you could pass the entrance trials, they would teach you with all their resources and dedication. Just think, from the Desolate Era to the Imperial Era, the Heavenly Tao Academy had produced countless legends. And whenever the Academy summoned them, these alumni would return without hesitation. That was an unimaginable force of loyalty and power. Some even believed that the Heavenly Tao Academy's foundations were stronger than those of many imperial lineages. "Brother Chung, it's been a while. I didn't expect us to meet again here. Brother Fan, best of luck in today's test." In the bustling crowd, many talented youths who had once known each other greeted one another warmly. At the academy's front gate, 2 majestic white tigers carved from black iron stood imposingly. Though they were lifeless statues, they radiated the domineering aura of beast kings, as if they could spring to life at any moment. Outside the gates, all the aspiring students were arranged into 2 long vertical lines, waiting to enter. Su Zimo and his companions joined the procession into the academy. Inside, the students were gathered onto a spacious plaza. Parents and guardians who had accompanied them stood to either side, creating a chaotic and noisy scene. The Celestial Tiger Academy didn't judge students based on cultivation. Instead, they tested only 2 things: talent and Tao heart. Cultivation could be affected by family background and access to resources. It wasn't a fair or accurate reflection of someone's potential. Academies that relied on brute force duels and whoever punches harder gets in were seen as low tier. From the plaza, the students gazed into the distance where the inner academy stood. Towering mountains pierced the clouds. Students flew on winged spirit beasts overhead. The architecture was grand and majestic. Iron towers stood 100 stories high. Sword-shaped peaks rose from the ground. Every boy and girl there yearned to enter that sacred place. If they passed the tests, it would become their home for cultivation. "Senior brother, why are we even here?" Little Gue asked, confused. Having grown up within the true martial sacred ground, Little Gue found this academy unimpressive. His sect rivaled the Heavenly Tao Academy in power. He naturally looked down on this place. "I came to retrieve something," Su Zimo replied with a smile. As they were chatting, a shifty-eyed youth in white robes approached them. "You guys here to sign up too?" he asked with a grin. "What do you want?" Little Gue frowned. "Let me introduce myself. Name's Lu Yi. Just like you, I'm a new student," the young man said with a confident smile. You might not know how things work here yet, so let me fill you in real quick. Us freshmen will definitely be bullied by the upperclassmen. That's just how it is. Where there are people, there's a pecking order. Totally understandable, right? That's why we newbies need to stick together. Form a united front. My cousin is a second-year student, pretty well known. He started a faction called Windrain Alliance. It's a support group. If we freshmen join, and each pay 20 spirit crystals per month, he'll protect us from harassment. As Luyi droned on and on, Su Zimo and the others found it pretty amusing. So this guy was trying to scam them. Forget it. We're not interested, Little Gue said, shaking his head. We might not even pass the entrance exam. I can tell from your bones you're a shoo-in, Luyi said with a serious face. Join Windrain Alliance now for just 20 crystals each. If you wait, the price will go up. I said we're not interested. Don't make me repeat myself, Little Gue said coldly. Lu Ye's face darkened. TCH acting all high and mighty. Just wait till we're inside. You'll regret it. He turned and went off to scam someone else. Suddenly, Little Gue kicked him square in the back, sending him flying. Then he and Lin Ruhu rushed forward and started beating him senseless. Try hitting me again. I dare you. Smack. You've got a problem? Gonna call for backup? Smack smack. My cousin's a second-year student. He won't let you off. Smack smack smack. Please, brothers. I was wrong. Stop hitting me. Smack smack. Can't you show some mercy? Smack. Daddy, please forgive me. Smack. At this point, Su Zimo stepped in, pulling the two away. He looked down at Luyi with amusement and asked, So your cousin's a second-year student? Lu Ye's once clean robe was now covered in footprints, and his face was stamped with shoe prints. He nodded like a pecking chicken. You guys are terrible, Su Zimo scolded Little Gue. Even dogs have owners, right? Let's go find his owner. He turned to Lu Yi. Take me to your cousin. The plaza they were in wasn't technically inside the academy. It was just where new students were tested. But the item Su Zimo wanted was located inside the main campus. Since he didn't care to participate in these meaningless tests, he needed an upperclassman to lead him in. Lu Ye's cousin was named Chung Feng. In addition to the new students, there were plenty of second-year students lingering nearby to watch the show. These upperclassmen, like Chung Feng, were trying to recruit members for their personal factions. And the best candidates? The clueless new students who had just arrived.